Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Dark Naruto destroys the Akatsuki and destroys Konoha Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto, what is going on with you? Why do I have this ominous feeling every time your name comes into mind? Tsunade thought with concern, vigorously biting on the nail on her right thumb in frustration, a habit she had picked up since even before her genin days. It was only yesterday in the late afternoon that Jiraiya and Naruto had returned, and everything had looked perfectly normal. Sure, Naruto had grown a lot taller and his physical conditioning had visibly improved to a great extent. Sure, he had changed his outfit, now wearing a black sleeveless top, black shinobi pants, white bandages around his ankles, blue ninja sandals and a red hori with black flames licking the bottom edges. Yes, Tsunade had realized immediately that Naruto had grown up a bit, both physically and mentally. But still, it had seemed that both Jiraiya and Naruto hadn't changed that much to her, at least, not personality-wise. Had prepared for this day beforehand, she and everyone else who knew about his return had been excited to see just how much the blonde Uzumaki had grown over the last 2.5 years. That was why Tsunade had prepared this particular test. She'd intended for Sakura and Naruto to team up against Kakashi as a test of their skill and development. It came as a bit of a surprise when Naruto insisted on taking Kakashi on his own. But after regaining her bearings, Tsunade had realized that it wasn't entirely out of character for Naruto to get carried away like that. After all, this was the same person who had challenged a Sannin, namely, herself to a death match even though he had been nothing but a rookie genin at the time. Naturally, Sakura had been disappointed that Naruto didn't want her involved, perceiving the situation as if Naruto thought that she was still the weak little girl from 3 years ago who would only get in his way or get herself killed. This served to infuriate her and lash out violently at the blonde Uzumaki. That's when things started to get strange. The old Naruto would have taken the beating and groveled at the pink-haired Chunin's feet, pleading for forgiveness and even asking her out on a date right after the assault on his person. But this Naruto only dodged her attack, formed an instant, one-handed Rasengan, and directed it towards his medic teammate's face, stopping the spiraling sphere an inch away from her nose, all in an instant. He'd followed that up by threatening her with death should she ever attack him again, quoting that attacking a fellow Konoha shinobi without just cause was in violation of shinobi regulations and could be punishable by death. All of this said with an unnerving calm and dangerous tone, leaving almost no doubt that the 15-year-old had every intention of following through with his threat should Sakura assault him again. That's when Tsunade had realized that something was horribly wrong. She'd dismissed everyone, even Shizen and Jiraiya, so that she can have a private word with Naruto. It didn't sit well with her that her apprentice had almost died right in front of her eyes, almost killed by her own surrogate brother, who was actually a real blood relative to her, even though he did not know it, or so she thought. Naruto had simply told her that he no longer harbored any romantic feelings for her apprentice and didn't feel like he needed or wanted to tolerate her abuse anymore, stating that he loved another woman and had every intention of pursuing a relationship with her. Naturally, Tsunade wanted to know who this woman was and even found herself angry at Naruto for loving another woman that wasn't her apprentice. Part of the reason she had trained Sakura was because he practically begged her to help Sakura, and because she herself thought that they might have a future together. Also, she now saw Sakura as more than a student, but almost like her own daughter, so for Naruto to blatantly disregard her like that really pissed her off. However, the blonde Uzumaki would have none of it, making it clear that he would not be forced into a relationship with someone he didn't love, nor would he even pretend to love her. The blonde Uzumaki was even bold enough to outright tell the Hokage that who he loved or who he had a relationship with was none of her business, leaving a frustrated and pissed off Tsunade to try and figure out on her own who this mysterious woman was. Of course, her first guess was Hinata. Maybe Naruto had finally realized how much the shy Hyuga heiress loved and admired him and subsequently returned her feelings. It was the only person she could think of right now. In any case, Naruto's romantic affairs were soon proven to be the least of her concerns. A conversation with Jiraiya, where she had consulted him with the hopes of finding out what really happened in that 2.5-year training trip, would reveal something far more troubling than the blonde Uzumaki's love affairs, something possibly even more troubling than the Akatsuki and its movements, at least. It seemed like it was to her, and even Jiraiya. Apparently, Jiraiya only met Naruto yesterday afternoon at the main gate for the first time in 26 months. According to Jiraiya, Naruto disappeared without a trace 4 months into their training trip, leaving no trail to follow and not even leaving a note or a sign of any sort behind as reassurance. Naturally, Tsunade wanted to know how a relatively inexperienced genin could not only escape a spy master Sannin, but to continuously elude him for more than 2 years. Jiraiya stated that he did not know how Naruto did it exactly, but did mention the possibility that Naruto had somehow found another summoning contract. This, Jiraiya said, was because Naruto's name had disappeared from not only the Toad registration list, but even from the summoning contract itself. He explained that if his name had simply disappeared from the register, then it could have been reasonably assumed that Akatsuki captured him and killed him during or after the bijou extraction, but because it also disappeared from the contract itself, then it meant that Naruto actually cancelled the Toad summoning contract by signing another contract. In which case, it would also explain why he was able to disappear without a trace. He probably escaped through a space-time technique, namely, a reverse summoning technique, making it impossible to track down his whereabouts, especially without knowledge of which summoning creatures he was currently aligned with. Jiraiya also stated that Naruto probably timed their reunion so that they could meet specifically at the main gate so that he wouldn't have a chance to interrogate him about his whereabouts and activities during their separation. He also mentioned that Naruto had not once referred to him as sensei or shishio since they reunited and rather used honorifics such as Dano or Sama, theorizing that Naruto no longer considered him to be his sensei and that the cancellation of the Toad contract was symbolic of Naruto breaking away from any connections with him. Jiraiya also noted that it was possible that Naruto no longer held on to any bond that the two of them might have shared before their departure, as Naruto no longer used the affectionate nickname Erosenin to address him anymore. The only thing that Jiraiya was able to ascertain without a doubt was that, if Naruto indeed spent all his time in the summoning realm, then he would have had special training from his new summoners and was bound to be much stronger than he was before they split apart. Also, Jiraiya theorized that Naruto was smarter and a lot more manipulative than he seemed, stating that Naruto probably knew that his pride as a Sannin and an elite shinobi wouldn't allow him to immediately report his failure. Also, Naruto probably thought that Jiraiya would rely on his spy network and his own espionage skills to track him down instead of reporting back to Konoha, giving him ample time to do whatever it is that he wanted to do in the 2.5-year timeframe. Jiraiya also pointed out that another reason for meeting up with him just before he reached Konoha was possibly because Naruto was hoping that he would be too scared to tell her what happened and rather keep it a secret for his own sake, basically, to avoid a beating from her, and to protect his own reputation. Needless to say, both Jiraiya and Tsunade found themselves having to rethink and reevaluate every interaction they had with Naruto prior to his departure to try and figure out which parts were lies and which parts were Naruto's real character, as they realized that they might actually know nothing at all about who he really is and what he is capable of. In any case, Tsunade decided to invite the whole Konoha 10 to watch Naruto's battle with Kakashi. She wanted to see how he interacted with his old friends, and she also wanted to question each and every one of them after the battle. Maybe they, as his friends, would be able to read his character, or to ascertain if there really was something wrong with him. Their testimonies would come in handy. As expected, all of them were more than eager to see how much the blonde Uzumaki had improved over the last 2.5 years. Some were just generally excited to see him again. That was perhaps why there was a full house attendance at Team 7's training grounds. You've caused quite a bit of a stir since your return, Naruto. Every one of your friends has come here just to see how much you have developed over the past 2.5 years. However, you're in way over your head if you think you can beat me on your own. Naruto, you're seriously underestimating me. Kakashi said with a deadly glare, his single visible eye, his right eye, narrowing at the blonde with intensity. Kakashi, I would suggest that you use your Sharingan from the beginning, otherwise this battle will not be worth my time. That is to say, if you wish to survive this battle, you will take this seriously. I'm only going to give you this courtesy once. In the end, whether to heed my warning or not is entirely up to you, Naruto said stoically. He's completely different from the Naruto from before. Perhaps yesterday's incident with Sakura was not an isolated incident after all, Kakashi thought wearily. Also, he's had special one-on-one training from one of the Sannin for 2.5 years. I suppose he's right in one thing, I shouldn't underestimate him, Kakashi thought. In all honesty though, Kakashi didn't underestimate any opponent anymore, not since he was easily captured in Zabuza's water prison 3 years ago. He'd learned his lesson back then. Nothing teaches you a good lesson than someone humiliating you in front of your own students. Just because he hadn't revealed his Sharingan yet did not mean that he was underestimating his opponent. What he was actually trying to do was to gather intel about his opponent. The old Naruto would have, just like this one, taken the lack of Sharingan use as if he was being looked down upon, except, whereas the old Naruto would have had a fit about it and insisted that Kakashi use his Sharingan while being distracted and consequently making silly mistakes as a result, this one was rather apathetic about it and didn't really seem to care whether the Sharingan was used against him or not. He also seemed much more focused and didn't seem to be the type to become easily distracted from his goal, not to mention how much less vocal he appeared to be compared to his old self. However, nothing has been proven yet. Let's see how long he can keep this up, Kakashi thought with a mixture of mischief and analytic prowess. Well, I'm not really sure anymore if you're just underestimating me, or overestimating yourself, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. In any case, the same rules as the last time are still in effect. You have to get the 2 bells on my waist before the dawn. Remember, if you don't attack with the intent to kill, then you'll never be able to defeat me, Kakashi said with the utmost seriousness as his chakra and killing intent flared up in anticipation of the battle to come, Naruto mimicking him as well in preparation for battle, his chakra flaring up and his intent to murder spiking up rapidly. The energy released by the two shinobi was so intense that an ominous breeze picked up all of a sudden around the training ground, causing dust and leaves to levitate and move around the battleground. Chakra and killing intent can be a good way to judge a shinobi's skill and focus. If this is anything to go by, then Nani. Kakashi trailed off in surprise as a gigantic and round shadow came over and around him, getting larger and larger in every split second that went by. The copy nin's head snapped up immediately, so fast that it almost looked like his neck had dislocated from its position temporarily. There was no way to describe the copy nin's emotional state as a reaction to what his lone eye perceived. If he wasn't mistaken, then what he saw could only be described as a Rasengan 50 times the size of a normal Rasengan, if not even bigger than that. It was so large that he couldn't even see anything else but a gigantic spiraling sphere, the jutsu filling up his entire line of sight in a sea of spiraling blue. Cho Udama Rasengan. Kakashi heard in a voice that he recognized as belonging to Naruto. Of course, he couldn't actually see the caster of the jutsu behind that monstrously huge sphere, but it was a safe bet to say that Naruto was at the other end of the sphere's circumference, a sphere that was on a crash collision course with him at devastating speed. Shit! Kakashi exclaimed, using the Shunshin technique to propel himself forward in a desperate ploy to evade the attack. Jumping sideways or backwards would not have worked as the ball was too large and coming too fast for him to get away in time. A Shunshin technique was the only way out, but Shunshining backwards or sideways was not possible, at least not at the speed required to evade the oncoming technique, leaving Kakashi with only the option of traveling in a straightforward line as a means of escape. So predictable. Naruto thought neutrally, although a little surprised at how Kakashi easily fell for his trap, because, in that instant that Kakashi took his eyes away from him to look at his clone's aerial assault, Naruto had instantly created a shadow clone, grabbed it by its left arm while the clone formed an instant Rasengan on its right arm, and thrown it violently in the direction that he accurately predicted that Kakashi would use to escape his technique. As shit. Kakashi cursed with wide eyes as another Naruto came flying at him at blinding speeds with a Rasengan pointed towards his abdomen. Kakashi's own Shunshin speed, combined with the clone's own flying speed, was so much that he had absolutely no time to react at all as the clone crashed into him with devastating effect. Rasengan! Shadow Clone Naruto exclaimed as he rammed the spiraling sphere into the copy ninja's abdomen with all his power before poofing out of existence. Jigwa! Kakashi cried out in agony as the force of the jutsu blasted him back at incredible speed, all of it happening so fast that he crashed into the side of the giant spiraling sphere that he was originally running away from as it connected with the earth, causing a massive explosion that sent chunks of debris flying all over the battlefield. A giant crater forming where the attack crash landed as the rest of the landscape became concaved and reshaped by the effects of the explosion, destroying the landscape in a manner not too different from the effects of one of Tsunade's super-powered punches. A Cho Udama Rasengan with his own chakra? That's impossible. How can he pull off something like that without using Sage Mode? I would understand if he was using the Kyuubi's chakra, but he wasn't even using that. Jiraiya thought, eyes wide in shock and disbelief. Jiraiya, is something like that supposed to be possible? Tsunade demanded, giving the Toad Sage a look that said speak up or else. And no. It's not supposed to be. I can do it myself too, but only when I enter Sage Mode. It should be impossible for a human to produce that kind of chakra. Jiraiya answered, now adopting a serious and contemplative expression. But Jiraiya-sama, what about that other chakra, couldn't he do it with that? Shizen asked tentatively. He wasn't using any external chakra source, and he certainly wasn't using that other chakra as well, otherwise I would have perceived it with my Byakugan. Niji cut in before Jiraiya could respond, shocking the three elder shinobi considerably, all three looking amongst each other with nervous and questioning expressions. I saw it when we fought in the Chunin exams. I obviously went and did my research afterwards. Don't worry, I haven't spoken to anyone except Hayashi-sama about it. Niji said as if talking merely about the day's weather conditions, causing the three elder shinobi to breathe out in relief. In any case, Naruto always had a ridiculous amount of chakra density and capacity. Also, with my Byakugan, I have seen just how abnormal the size of his chakra coils is. Given those three conditions, Naruto should theoretically have the ability to pull something like that off with the correct level of chakra control. Probably, he didn't have the control to do it 3 years ago, but he certainly does now. Niji explained with the regular Hyuga stoic expression, giving away none of his feelings or emotions regarding the matter. But that wasn't even the real Naruto. How can a mere clone pull something like that off? Shizen wondered out loud. I don't think any of you truly understand just how vast Naruto's reserves are. Let me put it like this. Just pretend that Naruto has unlimited reserves. Maybe if you think like that, you might be able to understand a little better. Neji said evenly. I see, I guess it does make sense. But how could Naruto have gained such a level of control in such a short space of time? Given how horrible his chakra control was just 2 years ago, it's quite hard to believe that he could have subdued his chakra to that extent in such a short time span. Tsunade said, bidding, once again on her thumb in concentration and a little frustration. I would have thought Jiraiya-sama would have the answer to that. After all, wasn't he the one that was training him for the last 2.5 years? Neji asked rhetorically. I see, was all the Hyuga genius said as he directed his eyes back to the battlefield, leaving the rest of the Konoha 10, who were listening to the conversation more than a little confused by the words spoken in the relatively short four-way conversation. It would seem that my comrades are keeping dangerous secrets to themselves. Shino and even human logic tells me that this is normal behavior, yet, why am I still surprised? This is completely illogical. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Rather, I should focus on uncovering Naruto's secrets. It will, however, prove to be a rather difficult task with my destruction bug's weariness of getting close to Naruto, thought an uncharacteristically emotional Shino, feeling slightly hurt that he was seemingly being left out of the loop once again. So I'm not the only one who figured out Naruto's secret about the Kyuubi. I suppose this shouldn't be entirely unexpected. Neji is a once-in-a-generation Hyuga genius after all. Also, he's actually had a direct confrontation with the Kyuubi's power and chakra before. It was only a matter of time before he figured it out. Shikamaru thought. I don't know what's going exactly, but I'm smelling foul play everywhere around me. Something big is about to happen, I can feel it, my instincts are going haywire. Kiba thought wearily. What the hell are they talking about? And how the hell does Neji know what's going on? And more importantly, Naruto Sakura trailed off with a worried expression as she trained her eyes back on the battlefield, an ominous feeling settling at the pit of her stomach not unlike the one she had on the days preceding Sasuke's departure, a feeling that had her on the verge of tears instantly. No! I can't think like that. Naruto would never do that, would he? Thought Sakura, the memory of Naruto almost blasting her head off with a Rasengan flashing in front of her eyes suddenly. No! He promised he'd return Sasuke-kun to me. Naruto never goes back on his word. Naruto would never leave his friends behind, he wouldn't. Sakura screamed mentally, trying valiantly to crush the doubts and insecurities that were threatening to consume her. Sakura, you've been acting strange since Naruto returned. What happened yesterday? Ino thought with a concerned frown as she watched the different expressions and emotions morphing into her friend's face. He reshaped the whole landscape with that jutsu alone and completely destroyed my shadow clone. If I don't use my Sharingan, I'll really die here without a doubt. Kakashi thought with half of his body sticking out of the earth where he had originally been hiding under the surface of the earth but was now exposed due to the damage done to the landscape. You have nowhere to hide now, Kakashi. Naruto said matter-of-factly, staring down at the copy ninja with complete apathy. You're right, Naruto. I won't hold back anymore, or rather, I can't afford to hold back anymore. I'm going to be serious from now on, Kakashi said, pushing up the part of his forehead protector that was shielding his left eye, revealing a red eye with 3 tamos circling around it as he jumped out and onto the surface of the battleground. He killed my clones so easily with a well-thought-out battle plan involving only 2 of his shadow clones. In the past, his plans required a minimum of 10 clones in order to effectively distract his opponent enough to gain an opening, but now, he only needs 1 or 2 to do the job. He's not just a powerhouse with unlimited chakra and a flashy jutsu anymore, he actually fights with the efficiency of someone who needs to preserve his energy, someone like me. Considering that he doesn't actually need to conserve that energy, that makes him an even more dangerous opponent. Kakashi thought wearily. No, that's not all. He also didn't seem surprised that the one he killed was just a shadow clone, nor was he surprised to see me hiding underneath the earth. Meaning, he probably already knew that he was fighting a clone to begin with. This might actually be a lot harder than I initially thought it would be. Kakashi thought analytically. Using your Sharingan now, huh? That's good. This should half the time it would have taken for me to take the bells from you. Naruto said casually, as if his words alone were enough to morph and shape reality to his bidding. Half the time it would have taken? What does that mean? I see, thought Kakashi with wide eyes, the memory of the time he fainted right in front of his students after overusing the Sharingan in his fight with Zabuza flashing momentarily in front of his eyes. So that's what he was really after. He wasn't really concerned with me underestimating him or not, he just wanted me to use the Sharingan so that I can burn myself out before dawn. This is because he knows he can easily outlast me, or anyone for that matter. Knowing this, I can't simply defend the bells anymore, that will just play me into his hands. I'll have to attack and defeat him cleanly in order to win this game. Kakashi thought, eyes narrowing slightly with determination. I see. Naruto, you have indeed grown into a fine shinobi, but as your sensei, I still have a lot to teach you. Lesson number 1, Taijutsu. Kakashi exclaimed as he propelled himself at the blonde Uzumaki with impressive speed, launching a right hook at his student's chin. Naruto ducked under the punch, spun around to his right-hand side and sent a back-spinning kick aimed for the back of Kakashi's head on the right side. He's fast. Kakashi thought in surprise, unable to spin around to block the attack because of the momentum from his missed attack, but luckily, thanks to that same momentum, was able to duck under the assault, following that by twisting rapidly with a sweeping kick aimed at Naruto's grounded left leg. However, at the very last second, Naruto was able to generate all the power from that single grounded leg to propel himself upwards, vertically twisting himself in midair, and executing an axe kick that was aimed for his Jonin sensei's head. Kakashi, realizing the danger, made a cross-arm guard over his head and successfully stopped the blonde Uzumaki's attack, only for Naruto to create an instant and seamless shadow clone on the copy nin's blind spot, the clone appearing already in a sweeping movement that was aimed at taking out the copy nin's legs from right under his body. Kakashi, reacting instantly to the danger, gathered chakra to his arms and pushed the original off of his body and followed that up by quickly jumping over the clone's sweeping right leg, twisting and readjusting himself horizontally and swinging his right elbow downwards towards the clone's head. However, that was his biggest mistake, as another shadow clone manifested in the space above the sweeping clone, using its counterpart's shoulder as footstool to propel itself above Kakashi as it quickly delivered the exact same attack that the copy nin intended to use on the other doppelganger, delivering a crushing elbow blow on the copy nin's spine that sent him crashing into the ground face first. Another clone manifested next to the doppelganger that delivered the blow, grabbed its arm and swung it towards the fallen copy nin with massive force and speed before poofing away, leaving a cloud of smoke where it used to be. The remaining doppelganger formed a normal-sized Rasengan and rammed it into the copy ninja's back, or at least tried to, only for Kakashi to escape with a substitution technique, leaving a log in his place that was smashed into a pile of splinters a split second later. Substitution technique? The doppelganger thought before disappearing with a puff of smoke, sending the information and every other experience it had in its short existence back to the original Naruto. First the substitution technique, and now he's using stealth to keep himself hidden? Guess I'll have to. Earth release, double suicide decapitation technique. Kakashi whispered, his hand instantly shooting out of the ground with the intent to grab onto the blonde Uzumaki's right ankle. Wind style, wind circulation. Naruto whispered, releasing a whirling mini-cyclone from his left leg that completely shredded the copy nin's hand just as it wrapped around his ankle, the puff of smoke as a result, however, alerting the blonde immediately that the copy nin had only been another shadow clone. It seems that supplementary ninjutsu and taijutsu alone isn't going to be enough to take you down after all, Naruto. Kakashi said, using the hiding like a mole technique to protrude his body from the ground and subsequently jumping out a short, but not too close distance away from the blonde Uzumaki. How's your back doing? Naruto asked simply, throwing the fact that he was able to draw first blood at the copy ninja. Ma, I've survived worse than this. Kakashi replied with feigned nonchalance, scratching the back of his head sheepishly with a trademark smile displayed on his facial features. I suppose. Naruto replied uncaringly. His taijutsu is outstanding. The Sharingan is better at predicting linear movements than circular and indirect movements. Naruto seems to have knowledge of this and makes sure to never use linear attacks. Also, his ability to not only create instant and seamless shadow clones, but to also manifest them in stances and positions of his own imagination means that he can corner his opponents and attack them directly on their blind spots. After all, the Sharingan can't predict an attack it cannot see coming. He must have learned this from his past battles with Sasuke. Kakashi contemplated analytically. Also, molding chakra outside any part of your body except your hands takes an incredible amount of skill and chakra control, yet he was able to not only execute it, but to do it almost instantaneously on his right leg. Naruto, what kind of monster are you turning into? Kakashi thought worriedly. In any case, there's no use in trying to fight him at close range. His shadow clone mastery and synchronization is a perfect counter to my Sharingan. I'll have to attack him from mid and long range. Kakashi decided with conviction. Lesson number 2, Genjutsu. Kakashi said, making direct eye contact with the blonde Uzumaki as the tamo in his left eye spun around his pupil menacingly. As soon as the Genjutsu activated, Naruto's eye turned blood red with a black slit manifested in the pupil. His finger and toe nails grew longer and sharper, and his canines became elongated. A menacing apparition of the nine-tailed demon fox appeared behind the blonde Uzumaki with its right claw wrapped around the blonde Uzumaki's body. What's going on all of a sudden? Kakashi wondered out loud. The fox apparition's left ear twitched slightly at the copy nin's words, releasing the blonde Uzumaki and charging at the copy nin with blinding speed. The fox opened its maw wide in order to swallow the copy ninja, only to disappear shortly before delivering the killing blow. The atmosphere became lighter all of a sudden, the fox disappeared and Naruto's body seemed to have returned to normal all of a sudden, eyes no longer red, canines no longer elongated and nails no longer sharpened, at least, not as much as they were a few moments ago. A genjutsu? But wait, that was a counter genjutsu. Stopping or dispelling a genjutsu is one thing, but it takes great skill to reverse a genjutsu on the user. But how is this even possible? Naruto was a complete dud when it comes to genjutsu. Is this really him, or is it the fox's doing? Kakashi thought frantically. You were able to see through my genjutsu counter. You have yourself a good eye indeed, but for how long can you keep this up? Naruto asked condensingly. You're not the only one that has been training over the past couple of years. Everyone has been improving themselves, myself included. Kakashi said simply. I see. Well, in that case. Naruto trailed off menacingly as two shadow clones poofed into existence right next to him, one on his left and one on the right-hand side. The original Naruto formed a Rasengan on his right hand while the clone on his right-hand side immediately started weaving wind chakra into the sphere, using both its hands for control and balance of the technique. The clone on his left-hand side kept its eyes trained on the copy ninja to prevent him from interference, and to take note of any tricks that he might have up his sleeves. Futon, Rasen Shuriken. Naruto announced with his hand held high above his head, a Rasengan surrounded by spiraling wind blades levitated above his palm. He combined his Rasengan with wind chakra. He completed the Rasengan. Impossible. Jiraiya-sama, what kind of training did you put Naruto through? Kakashi pondered nervously. Kyuso. I'll have to leave the questions for another time. It will be over if that thing even touches me. I'll have to fight at long range to keep him away from me. Kakashi thought. He probably expects me to try and get close to him in order to administer the technique. Naturally, this is because that is how the normal Rasengan works and because people don't expect someone to be able to control such a massive chakra from a distance. That will be his downfall. Naruto thought confidently. Fire style, Grand Fireball Technique. Kakashi exclaimed after blazing through the hand seals at breakneck speeds, launching a giant fireball from his lips that flew at great speeds towards the blonde Uzumaki. He's using fire style to exploit the weakness of wind jutsu and exploit the complementary properties of the two affinities, namely, he's trying to use my Rasen Shuriken against me. A good idea, however. Naruto trailed off as he threw the Rasen Shuriken with all his might. The spiraling shuriken sliced right through the grand fireball. Not only that, but the blades on the shuriken also caught fire from the copy nin's jutsu, turning the jutsu into a spiraling inferno. A jutsu is only as strong as its user, and a fire jutsu can only truly overpower a wind jutsu of the same rank. Using a B-rank jutsu against an S-rank jutsu is not going to do you any good. Also, the Rasen Shuriken dismantles humans and objects alike at a molecular level. Even a fire jutsu can be dismantled with the correct application of the jutsu. Rest in peace, Hatake Kakashi. Naruto thought triumphantly. It dismantled my jutsu and the wind blades were ignited by the grand fireball. Not only that, but how is he controlling such a massive chakra from a distance? Kyuso, this must surely be an S-rank ninjutsu. Kakashi thought in horror, jumping to the side at the last possible moment to avoid contact with the spiraling shuriken. Heck, you're not getting away that easily. Naruto thought, giving the mental command for the shuriken to expand and explode immediately. It's over, the copy ninja is no more. Naruto thought victoriously. 2 weeks later. It's been 2 weeks now since my battle with Kakashi, a battle of mysteries and discoveries. Kakashi told me to attack with the intent to kill, and everybody, the Hokage included, heard him say that. And so, I did exactly that, knowing well that I couldn't possibly be arrested for doing what my direct senior officer instructed me to do. After all, this is the exact same reasoning that was used to excuse me of stealing the forbidden scroll of seals when I was still a genin. Oh wait a minute, I am still a genin, aren't I? Hee, how ironic. In any case, my attempt at assassinating Kakashi was a failure. It seems that the copy ninja had a few secrets of his own. He apparently has what Kurama has explained to me as the Manjiko Sharingan, and that Manjiko Sharingan seems to grant him the ability to manipulate space and time. Kakashi was able to open a space-time vortex that transported my Rasen Shuriken to another dimension. Apparently, the name of the technique is Kamui. The jutsu, as expected, took a lot out of him. He almost looked like he was about to pass out any moment as soon as he used it. I decided that I had to see the technique at least one more time so that I can know exactly what I'm up against, also, so that he can possibly die of chakra exhaustion. This time, I unsealed the windmill shuriken from a seal on my wrist, used the vacuum style to infuse it with wind chakra, and threw it at him with all my power. Naturally, Kakashi prepared himself to leap away from the attack, but that didn't really matter. I was able to make hundreds of shuriken copies, 300 exactly, using the shuriken shadow clone technique, which essentially left Kakashi with the impossible task of dodging that many wind-infused windmill shurikens. He had no choice but to use that Kamui ability again. Surprisingly, the copycat was still able to keep his ground after using that jutsu. He has a lot more willpower than I gave him credit for. But I knew he would once again fall for my trap, and naturally he did. It's really not his fault. It isn't that he's stupid or anything. In fact, all he did was what any smart shinobi would do in that situation: retreat, regain your strength and bearings, and then come up with a plan of action. Problem with that is, I like to put myself in the shoes of a smart person. When I heard that Kakashi would be my opponent, I automatically knew that our battle would take place in Training Ground 7. In fact, he even confirmed this suspicion by telling me to meet him there at 5 a.m. the following morning. That night, I went and set all sorts of traps in the forest surrounding the training ground. Some were explosive tag-related traps, some even involved exploding shadow clones. There were enough traps around that training ground to destroy a whole battalion of shinobi. In the end, Kakashi triggered most of the traps as I just stood at the center of Training Ground 7 and listened. By the time the noise stopped, Kakashi was in a comatose state and required immediate medical attention, or he would have died in less than 10 minutes. Tsunade was able to save him. Frankly, I was disappointed that he survived. I was really hoping that he would die. After all, it won't be too often that I get a chance to kill a Konoha shinobi without it actually constituting a crime. As expected, I was reprimanded despite the technical legality of my actions. Apparently, the old Naruto would not have done something like that no matter what the circumstances. I received many different looks. Sakura, Hinata, Chuji, Shizen, Lee, and Ino looked at me with disbelief. Kurenai, Asuma, Jiraiya, Gai, Tenten, Shino, Kiba, and Shikamaru with suspicion, Tsunade with anger and disappointment, and Niji with simple curiosity. My friends are now weary of me and try to avoid me at all costs. Maybe they believe that I will feel bad and apologize for what I did. But I won't. I actually like that they are avoiding me. This only makes it easier for me to conduct my business without interference. Niji is the only one I have spoken to from the Konoha 10 since that day. That is because he was one of 2 people that I actually returned to Konoha for. No matter how strong a man becomes, he can't be an island all on his own. My ultimate goal is to rebuild Whirlpool, but there are too many threats that need to be eliminated before I can commence with that mission. Right now, what I need is a 4-man team. I can't destroy Akatsuki and Konoha on my own. I will need allies, actually. Rather, I have found allies. Niji has agreed to leave Konoha with me. He was not very hard to convince. After all, I did remove his caged bird seal for him. It was surprisingly easy. Sure, learning Uzumaki clan Fuinjutsu in the old Whirlpool ruins was behind my ability to help Niji, but really, any decent seal master could have figured this out. Although, I guess it would have taken them years rather than the 2 days it took me. Really, most seal masters are novices compared to the Uzumaki clan. Niji will help me destroy Konoha and the main branch of the Hyuga clan. In return, I will remove the caged bird seal from his kinsmen, and they will be allowed to join Whirlpool with Niji as the clan head. This in turn means that I will have fulfilled my promise to abolish the caged bird system and change the fate of the Hyuga clan. Of course, all of this will only happen after he has helped me destroy the Akatsuki. There is no fixed date for our departure. I'm thinking that maybe I can exploit both Konoha and Akatsuki for as long as possible before permanently severing my ties. Akatsuki want Kurama, and Konoha want to hold on to Kurama. I plan to use these 2 facts to get Akatsuki and Konoha to weaken each other. After all, with those directly conflicting motives, they are bound to clash with each other sooner rather than later. Also, this will give me a chance to gauge my true strength against the Akatsuki while I still have the backing of Konoha so that I can determine whether I am ready to break free or if I still need to rely on Konoha. That leaves just one recruit, Kurama Yakumo. Konoha have been keeping a tight leash on me since I returned. Tsunade has doubled the security and surveillance on me for 2 reasons. 1, the impending threat of the Akatsuki, but more importantly, because I seem to have become a flight risk that must be carefully watched. She may drink a lot, but she's quite good at her job. I'll give her that at least. In any case, I haven't been able to see Kurama Yakumo in person. I don't want to push it too far. Yakumo is considered as an S-class flight risk and danger to Konoha. Us befriending each other would not have been of too much concern to Tsunade and Jiraiya in the past. Danzo and the elders would have been concerned regardless, but not those 2. Now, however, things are different. No one trusts me anymore. Everyone is on edge as if waiting for me to self-destruct or something. Can't blame them for that, I guess. In any case, just because we haven't met up in person, doesn't mean that we haven't actually met up. I've sent shadow clones to her place on more than one occasion. I was surprised at her coldness towards me. Apparently, she didn't even know about my training trip and assumed that I had abandoned her like everyone else in her life. I don't think I've ever felt so sad and angry at myself, because now that I think about it, I actually did abandon her and only started thinking about her when I started thinking about companions to help me survive and thrive in my quest. The pain was so unbearable, I couldn't stop crying. I felt like a hypocrite. I behaved just like the Konoha scums that I seek to destroy. That will never happen again though. I won't make the same mistake. I don't know if the tears helped or not, but I'm glad that I was able to reach Yakumo-chan's heart again. We have talked a lot about the future and how we plan to get there. She knows about Niji and our fourth member as well. We all have something that connects us together. We have all felt the pain of hate, loneliness, and oppression. That is the bond that will make us surpass all other teams and organizations before us. Yakumo-chan has revealed a lot of interesting facts about herself and her time spent in the last 3 years. I found out that the Edo demon was not completely destroyed, and in fact cannot be completely destroyed. This is because darkness itself cannot be completely vanquished in a person's heart. Should that person feel the pain of loss, loneliness, and betrayal again, darkness will always be reborn in said person's heart. Kurenai and I hurt, abandoned, and betrayed Yakumo all over again, and that gave birth to a renewed hatred in her heart. The good thing now is that she has now conquered and subdued that darkness. She now has full control of her own powers. In other words, she is not controlled by hatred, but uses it to her own advantage. She is at another level altogether now. Naturally, I had to ask why she hadn't used that power to escape Konoha and live the life she wanted to live. The answer was unexpected and heart-wrenching to say the least. I felt so bad for even asking such a question. I should have known better. After all, this was exactly how I felt before I found out about my origins. The truth of the matter is that Yakumo had absolutely nowhere to go even if she escaped. She didn't have any friends to go to and she didn't know anyone outside these walls. If she went to another village, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't treat her just as bad as Konoha, or even worse. Also, her physical condition was another detriment. She didn't know how far her body would be able to carry her. Still, it seemed that she was still interested in leaving Konoha, because she was studying the medical arts in her spare time in order to find a cure for herself. Fortunately, I had already made provision for something like this. This is because of my bloodline limit. Yes, that is why I was able to cure Yakumo-chan's condition. The Sage of the Six Paths had an affinity for all 5 nature transformations, but what many don't know is that there is an actual 6th element, the yin/yang release, otherwise known as creation of all things. Even those who know about this element have no idea how to actually harness it. The sage had an affinity for this element, and was the only one who has ever completely mastered it. There are so many applications and different ways to use this affinity that it would take entire lifetimes to completely master it without Rinnegan. And even then, it would require an exceptionally talented individual to completely master. Many bloodline clans, in fact, most bloodline clans have the ability to use a limited version of this ability. My first real opponent, Momochi Yukihaku, was able to combine water and wind nature to create the ice release because of his clan's ability to subconsciously use yin/yang release in that manner. One of my other opponents, Kimimaro, was able to subconsciously use yin/yang release to create and replace lost bones from his chakra using a different application of the creation of all things. With the Uzumaki clan, things are slightly different. Our bloodline limit doesn't limit us to a specific application of the creation of all things technique. We have an affinity for yin/yang release in its purest form and can therefore use it in a manner of each individual's choosing. My mother was able to use it in the form of indestructible chakra suppression chains that also served as a medium for her sealing and barrier jutsu. In the past, many Uzumaki clan members have used this ability in many different ways, some for genjutsu, some for medical ninjutsu, some, like my mother, to complement their sealing and barrier jutsu, and some like me, to complement their ninjutsu. I have a lightning affinity from my father, and a wind affinity from my mother, and I have used my yin/yang affinity to combine those two affinities and created a new release, the swift release. But that is not all. I met my mother inside my seal when I wanted to take control of Kurama's chakra, and she taught me her chakra chain technique. She was so happy to hear about my goal to rebuild Whirlpool and said it was the least she could do to help me on my quest. We parted on happy terms, and I have never felt so loved as I did when I was with her. If there is a way to properly resurrect the dead, I will find it eventually and I will resurrect her. I simply can't let go. My father, on the other hand, was a completely different story. Apparently, he set the seal up so that he can see my whole life through the seal. As a result, he, unlike my mother, knows about my plan to destroy Konoha for its betrayal to Whirlpool Country, and as part of the deal I made with Kurama. He refused to help me destroy Konoha. That really pissed me off. I was really looking forward to learning the Haraishin no Jutsu. I had so many plans for that technique, but I guess it wasn't to be. Part of the reason I created the swift release, however, was because I couldn't learn that technique, but I do realize the importance of speed and reaction time, and I have worked hard to enhance those abilities. Still, teleportation is a lot more convenient than speed, and there are so many ways to use it. I had a backup plan should the situation call for it, not the most noble of methods, but who cares, it's convenient enough. Shadow clone training has been of great use to me. I have not only managed to learn medical ninjutsu from Shiromari's chameleon clan, but I have managed to integrate my yin/yang release into my jutsu. This has granted me the ability to regenerate wounds at high speeds. Not only that, but it has given me the ability to cure Yakumo-chan's disease. My jutsu is even superior to Tsunade and Kabuto's self-healing techniques. Yin/yang is the power of creation. Through the right medical application, even body parts can be destroyed and recreated. That is how Yakumo-chan was cured. In any case, Kazekage Gaara of the Sand was captured by the Akatsuki recently. I was surprised that Konoha would even allow me to leave the village after all that suspicion, but I guess they had no choice. I defeated Kakashi after all, and I am a Jinchuriki. Also, I know Tsunade and Jiraiya as well as I think I do. Then they probably instructed Kakashi and Sakura to keep an eye on me and take note of every movement I make. They know that I can hold back against opponents of Akatsuki's caliber, and probably want to gather intel on any abilities I might still be hiding. I have to give them credit, they are very shrewd individuals. I gave away so much about myself in my fight with Kakashi, I even used Rasen Shuriken. If they really do suspect that I am still holding back after all that, then they are absolutely spot on. Haha. However, I am even smarter than that. I bet Kakashi and Sakura. No, actually, I know Kakashi and Sakura were surprised when I didn't follow Deidara when he flew away with Gaara's corpse. In fact, Kakashi tried to get me to go with him and leave Sakura behind with Chiyo-sama. However, I had a good excuse already. Gaara was closest to me. In fact, I was the only one in the team who was close to Gaara. Deidara knew this and was planning to use that to his advantage. Going with Kakashi would make us fools who were playing into the enemy's hands without thinking. Also, both Kakashi and I are ninjutsu types, and both Chiyo and Sakura are medical kunoichi. Pairing them together and us together would have been unwise and went against everything that Tsunade envisioned for Konoha. Tsunade wanted diversity in each team and, most importantly, believed that every team should have a medical shinobi. It was probably best that each team have a ninjutsu type and a medical type to increase our chances of success. Also, it was best that I remain with Chiyo. My multi-shadow clone technique would be a good counter for Sasori's puppet technique, and would help me avoid getting poisoned. Also, Chiyo was also a puppeteer and in fact Sasori's teacher. Her intel would be important. In the end, Kakashi had no choice but to take Sakura with and go after Deidara. This was a victory for me. I can now get to fight an Akatsuki member without the need to hold back. I just hope that Chiyo dies somehow. I don't think she would want to share any intel with Konoha, but at the same time there is no guarantee that she wouldn't. In any case, she seems intent on stopping her grandson from his criminal path, and in fact seems resolved to killing him. If I kill him, maybe she can owe me one for that and not rat out about my abilities. It remains to be seen. If I can't strike a deal with her, I'll have to kill her and defect immediately. Yakumo and Niji know the procedure to follow should I be forced to defect unexpectedly. We have already prepared for such a scenario. A little brat with less than 4 years of experience, and an old hag that's 1 foot away from her grave is all that the combined efforts of Suna and Konoha can spare to save the Kazekage and to take down an Akatsuki member? How the mighty have fallen, Sasori said in a deep and grouchy voice. A relatively short and hunchbacked man with 3 braided hairs and a black desert scarf covering the bottom of his face, a black cloak with red clouds covering the rest of his body. In the ninja world, appearances are almost always deceiving. After all, you yourself don't look like nothing more than a hunchbacked and disfigured old man that still likes to play with dolls. Naruto retorted with a neutral tone, completely shutting off his emotions and focusing on nothing else but the battle. Confidence is admirable, but no one respects a cocky little brat that acts like he knows everything. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, Kyubi, Sasori retorted irritably. No matter, it seems as though I'm about to find out anyway. That's fine by me. Besides, I may not be completely aware of what I have gotten myself into, but you are also in the same boat. You have no idea what I am capable of, Naruto said with a sinister undertone. I can't tell if you're trying to convince me or if you're trying to convince yourself with that garbage. You heard what Deidara said, right? The Nanabai Jinchuriki willingly surrendered to us because she wanted to be freed from the cursed existence of being a Jinchuriki and live happily ever after in the afterlife. You do not have to struggle so hard. You can stop pretending. We know about your suffering. Surrender yourself and we will relieve you of your pain and grant you a peaceful journey to the afterlife. We will carry the burden of the Kyubi for you. Can't you see that Akatsuki is only trying to help you? He, Sasori said cynically, causing Naruto to grit his teeth in anger and a little frustration. I'm glad I met you, Sasori. Perhaps if I had never met you, I might have eventually turned out just like you. But now that I have seen how pathetic you are, I can change my destiny into something better. It seems to me that you have gained an incredible level of skill and power, but have forsaken yourself in your quest for power. You no longer see anyone else around you, just yourself and your own ego," Naruto said, taking a deep breath before continuing where he left off. "Let me tell you something about the Nanabai Jinchuriki that you and Deidara claim to know so much about. The Nanabai Jinchuriki Fu and I are lovers. The last time we spoke was this morning through messages sent via my chameleon summons, and I am the only person in the entire world who knows where she is hiding right now. Think carefully and know your opponent a little better before you start sprouting nonsense. Confidence is admirable, but no one likes a cocky brat who thinks he knows everything," Naruto said condensingly, effectively turning Sasori's own words against the hunchback puppeteer, causing him to growl in anger and embarrassment. And Nani! He was able to befriend Gaara the Ichibi Jinchuriki, and now he is also lovers with the Nanabai Jinchuriki? This child, what is he? Chio trailed off in surprise, only to be cut off mid-thought by Sasori's angry voice. I was going to grant you a peaceful death, but I have changed my mind. I will capture you, torture the Nanabai's whereabouts out of you, capture her, and have you watch us extract her bija as she dies in front of you. Then, only then will we extract the Kyuubi from you. No, in fact, I will turn her into a puppet first, and then only extract the Kyuubi," a pissed-off Sasori growled out. "We'll see about that," Naruto said with a venomous glare, adopting a battle-ready stance as he prepared himself mentally and emotionally for his first real clash with an Akatsuki member. Earlier, Chiyo-Basama controlled 6 kunai with her chakra strings and attacked Sasori with them. The idea behind this was obvious. This jutsu enables the user to change the trajectory of the kunai at the last possible moment and attack an unguarded body area. But Sasori saw through it and rotated his metallic tail around his body to deflect all the weapons at the same time. However, Naruto trailed off in thought. Chiyo-Basama, in an instant, disconnected the chakra strings, compressed the chakra until it was invisible to the naked eye, and attached the invisible strings to Sasori's tail. Not only that, but she has also attached another set of chakra strings to my body and gained almost complete control over my movements. Probably, she doesn't believe I can avoid Sasori's attacks and puppet traps on my own. Also, if her fighting style is anything to go by, she also doesn't have enough raw power to destroy that puppet body. She saw me use Rasengan against Itachi earlier. She probably intends to get me close to Sasori to destroy that puppet with that jutsu," Naruto thought analytically. "If I let her control me, I might not have to use swift release after all, and I definitely won't have to use that other jutsu as well. In any case, it's too early to tell. I'll just let her control me for now. In the meantime, I'll observe Sasori's movements and attack patterns," thought the blonde Uzumaki. "Chiyo-Basama, I will follow your plan of defense and attack for now. You have my blessing," Naruto said without even turning to look at his partner, causing Chiyo's eyes to widen in sudden realization. "Follow my plan of defense and attack? Then, does that mean that he is not only aware of my chakra strings connected to him and Sasori, but is also aware of my intentions with regards to how to use his raw power for offense? Then, he must be a very good sensor type if he was able to notice my invisible chakra strings, a very intelligent one at that. Uzumaki Naruto, just who are you exactly?" Chiyo thought in wonder. "Looks like they're about to make their move. In that case," Sasori thought, throwing his Akatsuki cloak away and adopting a four-legged stance, clearly revealing his puppet shape, which was not too different from that of a tortoise, with his legs and arms being his only real body parts protruding outside of the puppet, and a big shell-like shield protecting his back. "Get ready, Naruto-kun, this is his offensive mode. He's about to attack," Chiyo warned. "Hi, Chiyo-Basama," Naruto acknowledged. "How is this possible? Chiyo-Baba predicting and avoiding my assault is one thing, but this little brat too? What experience could he possibly have when it comes to battling against a puppet technique of this caliber?" Sasori pondered with a little concern. It wasn't something that would cause him to question the chances of his victory. As far as Sasori was concerned, victory was already his. These two fools just didn't know it yet. Still, Sasori liked to consider himself to be a very intelligent, observant, and perceptive individual. As a result, every single mystery had to be solved precisely and accurately. This kind of information could help him create countermeasures for the flaws in his fighting style, and even help him improve his overall ability as a shinobi. Sasori was aware that simply dodging a Senbon attack was nothing special. He himself had done it many times and he'd seen many people dodge those attacks as well. In actual fact, the idea of a respectable shinobi getting hit with a head-on Senbon assault was ridiculous in itself. But there was a difference between a barrage of Senbon thrown by a regular shinobi and Sasori's Senbon barrage. A normal human or shinobi can only hold so many Senbon between his 10 fingers at a time, and hence, can only throw so many senbon. Basically, there is a limit to how many senbon a regular person can throw at a time. This in effect made it possible for the opponent to dodge most, and in fact most of the time, all the senbons aimed at him, or her. That is why senbon were mostly used for medical reasons, or for stealth attacks where the opponent wouldn't be aware of the incoming attack or even aware of the presence of an enemy. Sometimes they could be used in direct combat, but only as a distraction or in order to lead an enemy to trap that was set up beforehand. Sasori, however, doesn't have these limitations that normal people seem to have. That is all thanks to his sealing and puppet techniques. An ammunition seal of Sasori's own design is used to store and release senbon at incredible speeds and accuracy. This seal is then placed in various key areas of Sasori's main puppets, namely, the mouths and palms of his puppets. The seal has no human limitations such as only having 10 fingers to throw senbons at enemy shinobi, or throwing senbons at intervals. If he wanted to, Sasori could launch 500 senbon per successive interval, or he could use no intervals at all, and just launch an endless barrage of senbon. That is why it would take someone with years of experience training under those conditions to dodge all his senbon. If the Kyuubi kid had a Sharingan or a Byakugan, then maybe Sasori might have given him the benefit of the doubt, or if perhaps he had a defensive technique like an Earth Shield or Kakuzu's Earth Release, Earth Spear technique to simply prevent the senbon from penetrating his skin. But Naruto didn't fit any of these categories and yet still was able to render Sasori's assault ineffective. This, while not life-threatening, as Sasori had an abundance of options in his jutsu arsenal, was still a serious matter of concern. I never thought that my body could bend and twist at such awkward angles under the control of someone else, nor did I think that my body parts could move even faster with outside influence rather than my own will. I understand now why Chiyoba-sama and Sasori have chosen to specialize in this art. It allows them to pull off hand-to-hand combat skills that are otherwise impossible to execute with their own bodies. Not only that, but even weapons techniques such as senbon throwing are 100-fold more devastating and effective when used through puppet ninjutsu. A more than impressed Naruto thought analytically. "Prepare yourself, Naruto-chan," Chiyo ordered with an air of seriousness. "She's about to go on the offensive, and she's going to use me. Alright, it's time for that troublesome Hiriko puppet to go," Naruto thought with anticipation. "I'm ready," Naruto confirmed. Chiyo didn't waste a second longer, as she launched Naruto head-on at her rogue grandson with an unnoticeable flick of the finger, using her invisible chakra threads to control the blonde Uzumaki's body and movements with amazing efficiency and effectiveness. "A head-on assault is the best idea you could come up with. How stupid, you're really underestimating me, aren't you?" Sasori growled out as he launched another barrage of senbon from Hiriko's mouth cavity. Naruto, however, dodged each and every senbon with unreal finesse, agility, and speed, getting closer and closer to Sasori until he was almost close enough for his arm to reach out and touch the head of Sasori's Hiriko puppet. Sasori, uncomfortable with the close proximity and realizing the possible danger of the situation, switched from senbon assault to kenjutsu, thrusting his metallic tail towards the 15-year-old Jinchuriki's abdomen with impressive speed and precision. "Game over, Nani!" Sasori exclaimed uncharacteristically as his tail simply refused to follow his chakra thread commands, leaving him completely open for an attack from the blonde Jinchuriki. "Rasengan!" Naruto exclaimed, forming a big spiraling sphere on his right palm and subsequently smashing the Hiriko puppet to smithereens. Those who had seen him use the Rasengan 3 years ago would have noticed Naruto's visible growth and strength, as his basic Rasengan was now twice the size it used to be 3 years ago. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on which side you were on, Sasori was able to eject himself out of the puppet in the last second before Naruto's Rasengan connected, saving his own life at the expense of one of his treasured puppets. Chiyo, weary of any possible traps that Sasori might have set up in Hiriko should the puppet ever be destroyed, quickly pulled the blonde Uzumaki back to her side as they both waited for the hooded figure that seemed to have popped out of Hiriko to reveal himself, both waiting on edge in case of any surprise attacks. "I've waited 20 years just to see my grandson's face again. Come now, don't be so shy, Sasori-chan. This old woman could keel over and die any second now. Don't keep your grandma waiting any longer," Chiyo said with a weird combination of sarcasm and nostalgia. Sasori, however, ignored his grandmother's demands, taking his time as he reattached his chakra threads to the remains of Hiriko, namely, the metallic tail, and moved it around in random directions before dropping it back to the ground unceremoniously. "I see, that was quite impressive, Chiyoba-sama. I'm embarrassed that I didn't notice it until this very moment," Sasori said with a clearly different voice from the one he was using earlier, one that was serene and much softer than previously. "Earlier, when you attacked me with those kunai that were connected together by your chakra strings, you already knew that such a low-level puppet technique would not work against me. Rather, the real intention was for you to set up the first phase of your plan of attack. You anticipated my use of the metal tail to stop your attack and subsequently dislodged the chakra strings on the kunai and compressed the chakra until the threads became invisible to the naked eye. At the same time, while my eyes were focused on your attack, you attached another set of chakra strings to the kyubi and helped him avoid my summon barrage. Sasori thought out loud. Earlier, Itachi and Kisame's shape-shifting clones were sent to intercept and stall you and the Konoha contingent. I'm guessing that the kyubi must have used the Rasengan on either Kisame or Itachi. Having witnessed the jutsu's destructive power, you planned and successfully used the kyubi to destroy Hiriko, stopping me from killing him with the chakra strings you attached to my tail right at the beginning of the battle. Once again, I'm embarrassed that I can only notice this at this point in time. I really can't believe I was played like this by an outdated old hag like you, Chiyo-baba. Sasori said emotionlessly, swiftly throwing his hood away and theatrically turning around to finally face his opponents. And no way! Isn't this guy supposed to have defected 20 years ago? He doesn't even look older than me. Naruto thought, staring in disbelief at the guy standing in front of him, a guy who was about the same height as Naruto was, maybe just a tad bit taller with wide brown eyes and short red hair, also wearing the standard Akatsuki uniform. Chiyo-sama, do you recognize this guy as the same Sasori who defected 20 years ago, or is this just an imposter? Naruto asked awkwardly. I don't believe it. Sasori, what have you done to yourself? Chiyo stuttered out in shock and utter disbelief. What's wrong, Chiyo-sama? Naruto asked with a confused expression. He hasn't aged by a single day since he left Suna as a 15-year-old boy. He doesn't look different at all. Chiyo whispered, still unable to fully comprehend the reality that was staring right back at her with murderous intent. I see, so this is what an Akatsuki is capable of. I don't know why I'm so surprised really. After all, anyone who could willingly associate themselves with Orochimaru has to have some crazy abilities themselves. The only question is Sasori using some kind of de-aging technique, or could he really have found a way to make himself immortal? Naruto wondered out loud, a dreadful and weary expression morphing into his facial features. You seem to have quite a substantial amount of intel on my former partner. You know, Orochimaru and I achieved a lot of great things together. It is a pity that he had to go and betray us. Now I'm going to have to kill him right after I kill that old hag and capture you, Kyubi. Sasori said condensingly. He was Orochimaru's former partner. Kyuso. Does that mean that he really is immortal then? Naruto thought with more than a little trepidation. Chiyo meanwhile took out a scroll from inside her garment, and released the storage seal with a flare of chakra, releasing 10 battle puppets dressed in white garments, and also wearing demonic masks over their faces. White Secret Technique, the Chikamatsu collection of 10 puppets. Chiyo called out as she attached the necessary chakra threads required to control all 10 puppets. The ability to control 10 puppets at the same time, this is your ultimate puppet technique, isn't it? It is said that each of those puppets possesses the power of 1,000 ordinary puppets put together. Not only that, but it is also said that you once single-handedly took over an entire castle using that puppet technique. I myself have never seen you in action with those puppets, but it is quite impressive that you can control 10 puppets at the same time. Very few, in fact, before you, only one other person was ever able to utilize the Ubi Inai Su. Sasori commended. Sasori, I don't know why or how on earth you turned out like this, but I'm going to put a stop to this no matter what. It is the least that I can do for your mother and father. It is the least that I can do for you, my beloved grandson. Chiyo declared with determination. An old hag like you talking down to me like that? Your arrogance is really starting to annoy me. It's about time I put an end to this game. Deidara should be just about done now with the copy ninja and that girl anyway. I don't like keeping people waiting. Sasori said venomously. Sasori had dropped down a storage scroll from his sleeves and onto his right hand while he was talking and threw it in the air as he adopted a ram hand seal. Of course, the ram seal was unnecessary as Sasori didn't need to use hand seals anymore. Using a hand seal with his puppet body was useless after all, but it was an act he had put up so many times that it now came naturally to him. It wasn't a completely unnecessary act though. After all, he had to convince everyone, comrades and enemies alike, that there was nothing illegitimate about his real body, not counting the unnatural lack of aging, of course. Having adopted the hand seal, Sasori flared his chakra with a specific frequency, releasing the storage scroll as numerous puppets popped out, 100 of them to be exact. Sasori didn't waste time though, immediately attaching chakra strings to each and every puppet inside the cave. Some of the strings came out of his mouth, some from below his cloak, some from inside his sleeves, and some even from his fingers. Red Secret Technique, performance of 100 puppets. Sasori announced theatrically. This is impossible. Sasori? Chiyo exclaimed with a surprised expression. Chi Baba, do you now comprehend the unsurmountable gap in our abilities? You have replicated an ability mastered by only one other in the history of Kagetsu, but I have achieved a feat 10 times greater. This is the beginning of your despair. I will strip you of all hope until you become nothing but a vacant and useless vessel, just like a puppet with no strings. Sasori declared confidently. This should be impossible. It should be no. It is humanly impossible to create that many chakra strings, not to mention the mental fortitude and flexibility it would require to control all 100 puppets. Chiyo thought with disbelief. Chiyo-sama, what seems to be the matter? You don't seem like yourself all of a sudden. Naruto asked with concern. She is unable to comprehend the reality staring back at her right in the eye, that someone so young could have done what she couldn't have achieved even if you gave her 3,000 years to do it. Essentially, this could be equated to a physical and mental condition one experiences when they are forced to confront all of their life's failures, true despair in the flesh. Sasori said condensingly. So you're saying that no one has ever been able to create that many chakra strings, and that controlling that many puppets at the same time should be physically and possibly mentally impossible? Naruto deduced accurately from what he could gather from Sasori's boasting and Chiyo's reaction in kind. That's about the gist of it, yes? Sasori answered simply. He's very good at reading body language and battle situations if he was able to deduce that all on his own with so little time and information. Even earlier, he was able to read Chiyobaba's intentions without her actually telling or even physically signaling her intentions. I'll have to pay a little more attention to him. He's an enigma and a variable that isn't fully accounted for in this battle. There's also the chance that he could go berserk and release the Kyuubi. Sasori thought wearily. Naruto Chiyo trailed off with a serious tone. Yes, Chiyo-sama? Naruto asked politely. I'm afraid you're going to have to stay back this time. I won't be able to control your movements and 10 puppets at the same time. Allow this old granny to take over this time, Chiyo said. I understand, but Naruto trailed off as he adopted a cross-hand sign, flaring his chakra as he created 50 shadow clones. I can create a lot more of these, but there is not enough space in the cave for that. Nevertheless, I will heed your advice and stay back, but there is no reason for us to limit ourselves to 10 puppets. My shadow clones can fight for me while I stay at a safe distance just like you and Sasori do with your puppets. Also, I don't need chakra thread to control them. I believe they will also be of great help to you, Chiyo-sama, Naruto said, dropping the hint to Chiyo that he knew she would get almost immediately. I see, he intends to have some of his shadow clones act as backup and protection for my puppets while they are on the offense. Also, should I end up losing a puppets, he intends for me to take control of one of the clones that was backing it up, and use it as a puppet instead. Naruto-chan, you really are one of kind, Chiyo thought with a confident smirk. Good job, Naruto-chan, there's no need to drag this out, let's end it nice and quickly, alright? Chiyo declared with unwavering confidence, flailing her arms and fingers as she sent her puppet squad into battle. Of course, I wouldn't have it any other way, Naruto replied simply, giving the sign for his shadow clone battalion to charge into battle. The battle only lasted a few minutes, not more than 8 minutes. Sasori's puppet army was indeed formidable, and the skill with which he controlled all 100 puppets was a lot more impressive than Chiyo could have ever expected, so much so that Sasori had only lost half of his puppet army by the time her whole puppet squad and Naruto's initial 50 shadow clones were obliterated. Fortunately, Naruto's reserves were unlimited as he was able to create another 60 shadow clones, of which 10, at all times, were taken over and controlled by Chiyo. Sasori, with his forces depleted to only 10 puppets, pulled off an unexpected and downright devious move, using the puppet performance, skillful achievement with a human body to forcibly take control of some of Naruto's clones, and use them against each other. However, Naruto quickly saw through this and instructed his clones to dispel upon contact with Sasori's chakra threads. For any other shinobi, or at least, most other shinobi, Sasori's maneuver would have proved a fatal and uncountable move, as it would have been virtually impossible to differentiate between Chiyo taking over a clone and Sasori taking over a clone. But Naruto is no ordinary shinobi, as he is one of the finest chakra sensor types in the elemental nations. Because of this ability, Naruto and his clones were able to differentiate between Chiyo and Sasori's chakra threads and respond accordingly. In the end, Sasori's puppet army was completely defeated, leaving him at the mercy of Naruto's 4 remaining shadow clones. The clones, sensing victory, didn't yield their assault even for a second, attacking Sasori with vigor and determination, as well as strategy, of course. One clone went for a right hook on Sasori's face, but the great puppeteer was too fast for the clone, ducking under the punch and kicking the clone on the chin with a humanly impossible maneuver, his right leg shooting up vertically and over his head from his crouching position. The maneuver wasn't only unexpected because of the awkward upwards bending of the leg, but also because of the fact that it was executed almost at the same time and in fact during the process of dodging the clone's right hook. As expected, the shadow clone poofed out of existence upon contact, but just as well as it was only the diversion for the attack plan, only meant to blindside Sasori as two other clones came in from the sides in an effort to enclose the puppeteer as they prepared a Rasengan each aimed at Sasori's ribs. The plan was simple enough, yet quite effective under normal circumstances. Sasori was meant to avoid the three-pronged attack, and the only way to avoid it would have been for him to jump backwards. He shouldn't have been able to go forward because of the initial shadow clone's attack, and he shouldn't have been able to dodge sideways because of the two clones with Rasengans prepared to smash him in. Therefore, his only option would have been to jump upwards or backwards, or even both. That is where the fourth shadow clone came in. He was supposed to use the initial clone as cover as he came up behind him and jumped over with a Choodama Rasengan. In midair, Sasori wouldn't be able to avoid the assault, and even if he did, the initial shadow clone would be watching his movements and time a secondary attack for Sasori's approximate landing position, while the other two clones would have obviously destroyed each other with the Rasengan. However, things didn't go according to plan as Sasori pulled off another unthinkable maneuver, the red-haired puppeteer wrapping chakra thread around each shadow clone's arm at the very last moment, and controlling them enough to change the trajectory so that they both missed him and hit each other instead, the two clones as a result sustaining more than enough damage to destroy each other as they poofed out of existence. At this point, the fourth shadow clone was already airborne, forming a gigantic Rasengan as he flew downwards towards the ground. Akasuna no Sasori once again demonstrated his unbelievable mastery over the chakra thread technique, instantly attaching chakra thread to the back wall of the cave and instantly shorting the length of the threads from his finger endings. A maneuver that had the effect of his body getting pulled towards the wall at incredible speed. Sasori, before he even reached the other side of the room, and before the clone's attack even connected with the surface, was already launching his counter-attack, another one of his strings having been attached to one of the swords lying around from his defeated puppets, and directing it towards the blonde Uzumaki clone's blind spot. Stabbing the clone through the chest and dispelling it before its ridiculously sized Rasengan could connect with the earth and destroy the whole cave. Unbelievable. His moments and agility should be impossible for any normal human. Sasori, what else have you been doing to your body other than de-aging yourself? Chiyo thought with a mixture of surprise, pride, and awe, finding it hard to believe the level of mastery that her grandson had reached without her help, a level far beyond any of his predecessors. If only he hadn't turned traitor. Chiyo couldn't help but wonder how different things would have turned out with someone like Sasori on Suna's side, especially after the loss of the third Kazekage. This kid is quite fast, almost as fast as Itachi and Leader Sama, and his clone taijutsu combination is out of this world. I'd have been defeated if it wasn't for my special body and its abilities. Sasori thought with a little relief, realizing just how differently things would have turned out if it wasn't for his irregular skills and quick thinking. Damn! What the hell was that? How the hell can someone bend their leg like that? How can someone even perform two conflicting physical maneuvers at the same time like that? Naruto thought with disbelief. That was quite an interesting strategy, Kyubi. You must have worked hard and long on your shadow clone combinations and strategy. I can't imagine how many simulations it must have taken to get your clones to perform such well-coordinated attacks. It seems like they have a battle plan in place for every single battle scenario, whether it be 3 or 4 against 1, or 50 against 100. Very few people actually prepare themselves efficiently for battle not only against 1 or 2 opponents, but against armies as well. My 100 puppet army has never been defeated before up until now. Did you know that I once took over a whole nation with those puppets? Sasori praised and boasted in kind. I know I should be surprised, but, having witnessed and even experienced firsthand what you're capable of, I'm not really all that surprised. I can see how you could do something like that with enough preparation time and a good battle strategy, more so with the element of surprise that you would have. After all, who could expect a single individual to challenge a whole nation? Naruto complimented, the two rivals sharing a mutual respect for each other's skill and achievements, much to the surprise of Lady Chiyo. Uzumaki Naruto, you are indeed quite an intriguing child. You have certainly caught my attention. However, it is about time that I captured you. It is such a pity that I have to kill someone that resembles so much of my younger self. Perhaps in a different world, you and I might have been good friends. Sasori said with a strangely subdued tone, dropping another scroll from his sleeve, one with the kanji 4-3 inscribed on it. Friends? Hey, you don't strike me as someone who values friendship. I absolutely can't imagine you trusting anyone with watching your back for you, given the fact that you seem to hide inside Hiriko most of the time, even when you're with your partner Deidara. The blonde Uzumaki retorted, narrowing his eyes at the scroll on Sasori's left hand with suspicion. Another scroll? I thought the army of puppets was his greatest technique. I should have known he had something else up his sleeve. It was just too good to be true. Naruto thought wearily. Shinobi code dictates that we must lie, cheat, deceive, and even betray each other if it will help us achieve our goals. Therefore, trust has nothing to do with friendship, at least, not in the shinobi world. Sasori declared with certainty. I suppose there's a good point there somewhere. I don't like the way you think, but there is some level of truth to it. At the very least, I can understand why a person would take such a life philosophy to heart. Naruto said, his eyes narrowing in distaste and his fists clenching involuntarily as he remembered just how much he was deceived by so many people from Konoha that he trusted the most. What's happening? Why are these two having a heart-to-heart conversation in the middle of battle? Is this the power that the White Fang's son spoke of? Is this how Naruto-chan changed Garakuen? An odd and confused Chio pondered. Judging by the expression on your face, it would seem that you might have a first-hand experience to draw wisdom and understanding of my words from. Itachi gave us a completely different profile about the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I'm impressed that someone so young and inexperienced was able to deceive Itachi's Sharingan. In any case, it was nice knowing you, Uzumaki Naruto. Sasori declared, adopting a one-handed ram seal as he flared his chakra, releasing this time a single puppet from his latest storage scroll, a puppet that had Chio gasping for air, entering a shock-induced state at the sight of Sasori's secret weapon. Another puppet? This one looks a lot more live-like than the ones from his puppet army. But why would he summon a single puppet after we destroyed a whole 100 that were summoned previously? This can't be a normal puppet. Naruto thought wearily. Sasori! What have you done? How could you? Chio exclaimed hysterically, her mind refusing to accept the level her own self-raised grandson has stooped to. Chio Baba, I bet now you're thinking, I should have never taught him any Kagutsu techniques, isn't that so? Sasori asked carelessly. I knew that the death of your parents affected you. I knew that your innocence was lost on that day that you found out. I taught you Kagutsu to give you hope for a brighter future. I taught you so that you could one day have the power to protect your family. I wanted you to become a hero for Suna. Sasori, I never imagined you would become so evil. Chio cried, shedding tears for the first time in 20 years, such was the extremity of the heartbreak that she felt. People are so judgment and shallow, but most of all, human beings are such hypocrites it's almost unbearable. I suppose it goes without saying, having lived the life of a Jinchuriki, you should be able to understand, right, Naruto? Actually, I'm not really sure what the hell is happening. What's the big deal with that puppet anyway? Naruto asked with a quirked eyebrow. Naruto-chan, don't let your guard down, not even for a split second. That's no ordinary puppet, that is a puppet made from the third Kazekage's corpse. He was the strongest of all the 5 Kazekages. He had the ability to manipulate magnetic fields and he used that ability to create a powerful kenjutsu, the Iron Sand technique. Chio warned with a grave undertone. What? You mean he was the one who was responsible for the third Kazekage's disappearance all those years ago? And he can use his powers through his human puppet technique? Naruto exclaimed in surprise. I'm not sure, the last time we spoke about it, Sasori hadn't mastered that technique, but in theory, yes, he is supposed to have access to all of the Sandame's powers. Chio explained. Incredible. This jutsu is almost on the same league as the Naidame Hokage's Edo Tensei. Naruto thought out loud, an odd expression fully displayed on his facial features. You seem more than a little impressed by my jutsu. I can't say I'm not flattered. Tell you what, Naruto, since I like you so much, I'll let you join my collection. I've been meaning to get myself a close combat powerhouse for a puppet. I can already think of many ways to use that Rasengan technique of yours and its variations. Sasori said with pride and confidence, as if victory was already guaranteed. Sasori! How could you do this? All this time, you were the one that took away our Kazekage. He was a great man, how could you defile his body and legacy like this? And now you want to do the same to Naruto-chan. I won't allow it! Chio exclaimed. The Sandaime Kazekage, a great man? Give me a break! Sasori exclaimed uncharacteristically, shocking young Naruto and old lady Chio into silence, the two not expecting such an outburst from the otherwise calm and emotionless puppeteer. I did everything I could for that village. The ability to create human puppets would have revolutionized not only the puppet brigades, but Suna military prowess as a whole. We would have been at the very top of the food chain thanks to all my efforts. Imagine, all the enemy Kekei Genkai and Kenjutsu we could have harnessed from enemy villages and used to strengthen our own military forces. Can you imagine? Sharingan, Byakugan, Yotan, Jintan, Hayatan, shadow manipulation, the list goes on and on. Not only would I have attained the power to become the Yondaime Kazekage, but I would have been strong enough to protect the whole of Suna from destruction. I would have been able to protect my family, Sasori said with a very unhidden rage and contempt. This power was not only for me, I was willing to share it. The idea was to hand-pick 3 apprentices as soon as I was elected as the next Kazekage. 3 trusted students to which I could entrust the future of Suna and share the secrets of my jutsu with. I presented this idea to the Sandaime, and what did he do? What did I get in return for all my efforts? Sasori vented out. As Sasori. The Sandaime was an egotistical bigot who cared only about himself and his own status. He didn't like the idea of someone surpassing him. That histrionic bastard was only concerned with his own popularity and the affection and praise that he had as the Kazekage. He didn't really care about Suna, or at least he only cared about it as long as he was at the center of its attention and affections. He was insecure about his title and thus launched a public slander campaign against me and my Kagetsu techniques. Declaring my jutsu a forbidden kinjutsu that dishonors the dead and declaring that Suna would never stoop to such levels. Really, the hypocrisy. A ninja village with so many heinous actions developing a sudden sense of morality? Sasori spat venomously. I became a prisoner and a suspect in my own home. ANBU assassins were allocated to watch my every move at all times of the day, and I was banned from ever experimenting with corpses under the penalty of death. I wasn't even allowed to fiddle with enemy corpses. Missions outside the village were no longer assigned to me again, and I had to report to the Kazekage every time I wanted to pursue a new idea for a puppet technique. I was no longer a Suna citizen, nor was I a Suna shinobi anymore. I was literally made into an enemy. I was a prisoner. Sasori said, hatred bubbling at the surface of his tone. The rest of the village followed in the Kazekage's footsteps like I herd of sheep. They believed every rumor that was spread about me, and they too eventually developed a hatred and weariness of me, viewing my very presence as an abomination and a danger to their well-being. I tried my best to change people's minds, to make them see the real me, to get them to accept me, but all I got from my efforts was more scorn, more curses, and more humiliation. I was forced to come face to face with reality, and I decided that I would get my vengeance. I would start with the one who started it all. I would kill him and turn him into the very thing that he was so afraid of. I killed the Kazekage and turned him into my first human puppet. Next was Suna. I made sure to release the information of his disappearance to the other nations, knowing very well that they would seek to destroy Suna in their moment of weakness. Thus, the sparks that would soon burn as bright as the Third Shinobi War were set in motion. The chaos, destruction, and confusion caused by the war were beneficial to me in more ways than one. One of those was the ease with which I was able to plant spies in all of the 5 great shinobi nations, the beginnings of what would eventually be the greatest spy networking organization in the history of the elemental nations. I later joined an organization that had need for my services, the Akatsuki, an organization, unlike Suna, that has a Gunyan appreciation for my talents. I am a part of something far greater than Suna will ever be, Sasori declared with finality and certainty. This guy is just a victim of the Sandaime Kazekage's cruelty and manipulations. He and I are not too different after all, nor is the Sandaime Hokage any different from the Sandaime Kazekage. Naruto thought bitterly. Sasori, I knew the Kazekage very well. He was a charismatic and caring man who loved Suna more than anything. Do you have any idea how many sacrifices that man has made for the betterment of Suna? I can't possibly believe anything that comes out of your mouth right now. Besides, even if I were to believe you, that does not excuse your behavior. What you and the Akatsuki are doing is simply wrong, Chio declared with conviction. Actually, the Akatsuki aren't doing anything different from what Konoha, Suna, and the other hidden villages have been doing for decades now, Naruto thought. Naruto could honestly say that he didn't have any ill feelings towards Akatsuki at all. The Bijou were an important source of power for any organization that wanted to dictate, or at the very least have a contribution to the direction that the current world was going. He didn't know anything about Akatsuki's mission and vision, but he knew very well that if it was as big as what he thought it was, then without a doubt they would need some crazy source of power considering how few of them there were. All they wanted was to capture the Bijou. It wasn't their fault that the 5 nations chose to seal them inside humans. By the same token, however, it wasn't Naruto's fault that Kurama was sealed inside of him, so if he ended up killing off Akatsuki members, it was only because he was protecting himself and his own dreams and ambitions. It was only because he wanted to create a future for himself and his closest allies, his true friends and future family. Chiobaba, you can remain in your little shell of ignorance for the next few minutes of your life for all I care. I'm done talking, it's time for you to die, Sasori declared confidently. With a small flicker of the forefinger, the metal from all weapons and joints belonging to the destroyed puppets in the cave dislodged from their respective constrictions and floated in the air, the Suna legend using the 3rd Kazekage's magnetic release to control and compress the metal into a multitude of iron needles. This is the end, Sasori said, using his control over magnetic fields to repel the hundreds of needles at a speed 3 times as fast as Hiriko's Saman barrage, all needles closing in on Chio alone as the Suna rogue Nin focused the majority of his killing intent on the, in his opinion, irritating old hag. Meanwhile, more and more iron sand was being released from the 3rd Kazekage's mouth in preparation for Sasori's follow-up attack and defense against any possible surprise attack. the rogue puppeteer treading cautiously as usual, his experience warning him not to ever let his guard down against any opponent. Chiyo, realizing that her own old bones and muscles wouldn't grant her the speed to dodge such a fast and wide-range attack, instantly summoned 2 puppets with razor-sharp weapons on each of their arms, one a male with brown hair and the other a female with red hair, attaching chakra strings to each puppet and using their superior speed and reflexes to deflect all of the large needles away from her own body. Some of the needles missed her completely and hit the wall behind her, others were deflected to the walls on the sides, and others just fell to the ground harmlessly after being deflected. By this time, Sasori had released all of the available iron sand from inside the Kazekage, the amount quite staggering considering how much there was in comparison to the Kazekage's mouth cavity, heck, in comparison to his whole body for that matter. Those puppets? HN, how devious of you, using my parents against me? If this is your idea of psychological warfare, then you should know, that's not going to work on me. Let me show you what I mean, Sasori declared confidently. Having said that, Sasori, with another unnoticeable flick of the finger, used the third Kazekage's magnetic release to manipulate the weapons that the puppets of his mother and father wielded on each arm, dislodging them from their restrictions and manipulating them to slice the puppets up so fast that Chiyo had no chance to react or counter the attack at all, not that there was a possible counter in her jutsu reservoir. The pieces of the puppets crashing on the ground harmlessly following their destruction, leaving a wide-eyed Chiyo who was too shocked to move or say anything at all. Now die! Sasori exclaimed, forming more needles with his iron sand and sending them flying at Chiyo's direction at even faster speeds. That, however, was not the extent of Sasori's attack, the rogue puppeteer also manipulating the needles from his previous assault to attack Lady Chiyo from literally all directions, from the right side, from the left side, from behind, and even from above, as some of the needles from the previous assault had been deflected into the roof of the cave. Chiyo had no way to avoid the assault, she had no ultimate defense, no more puppets to help protect herself, and any weapons she could use now were unavailable thanks to the Kazekage's magnetic release, and she certainly did not have the speed to dodge all those Saban at those speeds coming from every direction. I suppose this is the end. In the end, mine was a life full of failures, regrets, and no achievements. Naruto-chan, I'm sorry, I couldn't even protect you from my own grandson. Chiyo thought on the verge of tears, closing her eyes as she tried to prepare herself for death's cold embrace. What is this? Am I still alive, or am I dead? Chiyo thought with confusion as she opened her eyes. She expected it to be relatively brief, but at the very least, she expected to feel some kind of pain before she passed on to the afterlife. Also, given all the mistakes and horrible decisions she made in her life, she never expected to go to a warm and safe place when she eventually passed on. In fact, she pretty much expected the literally cold and cruel embrace of death, at the welcoming hands of what some would consider to be hell. However, for one reason or another, she felt genuinely warm and protected, as if some majestic blanket was keeping her safe from all the dangers of the world. Are you alright, Chiyoba-sama? Naruto asked, effectively breaking the old lady from her trance, her eyes snapping open as if she just woke up from a nightmare. And Naruto-chan? What is this? Chiyo asked, eyes widening even further in awe at the sight that was before and around her. Her eyes now open, Chiyo was able to observe the jutsu that did and was protecting her, an array of glowing, gold-colored chakra chains that seemed to be anchored on the ground, forming a circular pattern around her. The spaces between the chains were encompassed by a powerful, transparent barrier that was strong enough to deflect Sasori's attack with mind-blowing ease. Both Chiyo and Sasori were able to instantly determine the location of the jutsu's caster, as the chains could be seen clearly originating from the blonde Uzumaki's lower back, projected straight into the ground and up and around Chiyo's location. That jutsu! Sasori thought in surprise. This is my chakra chain barrier technique. It is a kinjutsu of the Uzumaki clan that can only be learned by people of Uzumaki clan lineage. Naruto replied to Chiyo's question. You mean like a bloodline limit technique? Chiyo asked curiously. Yes, a bloodline limit technique. Naruto replied simply. So you really are an Uzumaki? I was under the impression that you were a fake. Your physical appearance, more specifically, your hair color does not resemble that of an Uzumaki at all. Sure, you have a strong chakra and a large capacity of chakra too, but that could easily have been attributed to your Jinchuriki status. Also, up until now, you had never displayed any knowledge of sealing or barrier ninjutsu. Uzumaki Naruto, you are quite an enigma. I can't wait to see what other secrets your corpse will reveal to me, Sasori said with genuine intrigue and curiosity. I have to agree with him on this one. I also thought you were fake. After all, there is power in a name all on its own, more so of a clan as great as the Uzumaki. Maybe Konoha wanted to hold on to that name to intimidate enemies, basically, as a warning of their strength and resources. Chiyo said as well from inside the chakra chain barrier. So everyone thought I was a fake? No wonder every enemy I faced laughed at me when I told them who I was. Naruto thought, finding it absurd that he was being underestimated all this time because everyone thought he was a fake. I've heard about this jutsu before. It was Uzumaki Kushina's trademark technique. Does that mean that she is your mother? Sasori asked curiously. I've never seen this technique before. This is the first time I've seen or even heard of it. Chiyo said, almost as if refuting Sasori's claims, or perhaps feeling a little embarrassed that she knew nothing of something that was supposedly public knowledge. Many factors would have contributed to that. In the Third Shinobi War, the legendary Sannin and White Fang, Hatake Sakumo were assigned on the Suna and Kiri front, whereas the Yellow Flash and the Red Devil, my mother, were assigned to the Kumo and IWA front lines. Because of this, you would have been more likely to clash with Hatake Sakumo and the Sannin and not had any encounters with my mother. It would explain why you wouldn't know much about her. Naruto explained neutrally. So she is his mother after all, but if so, who is his father? Sasori wondered. I see. I suppose you have quite a valid point, Naruto-chan. Chiyo trailed off thoughtfully. Naruto-chan knows more about the past wars than the other young shinobi of his generation. He is well learned and well informed about past events. Maybe that is what makes him such a good shinobi. Maybe he has learned from the mistakes of the past by reading up on his history. He's either a normal shinobi or a normal Jinchuriki, is he? Chiyo thought. I was not aware that the Uzumaki clan had any specific bloodline traits outside of their strong chakra, high-capacity reserves, longevity and durability, and sealing and barrier knowledge. Yet you seem to be implying the existence of a distinguished bloodline limit. I am curious, what is this bloodline limit exactly? Sasori asked stoically. That is a secret, Naruto said with a mischievous smile. You impudent little! Sasori growled out irritably. He's also, however, a real shinobi too. He understands the value of secrecy in the shinobi world. Chiyo thought appreciatively, even though it somewhat irritated her that she couldn't find out exactly what Naruto's bloodline limit was. Really, did you expect me to just give away the information just like that? Naruto retorted with a roll of the eyes. No matter, I'll find out sooner or later. I have many years to study your corpse. I'll even get some practice with it. Sasori declared, thinking about how close to invincible he would become with the third Kazekage and Naruto as his puppets. No more talking, I've kept people waited for too long anyway. Let's finish this. Sasori said, once again channeling the Sandame's magnetic release to surround Chiyo with meter-sized iron needles from all directions. Chiyo Baba is now literally a useless old hag. She no longer has any means to defend herself. All of her puppets are destroyed and all of her weapons can be turned against her. You can't defend her and attack at the same time. You'll have to release the chain barrier in order to go on the offensive. Also, you're a close-range fighter. The chains will hinder your movements if you try to go on the offensive while maintaining that barrier. So, Uzumaki Naruto, what will you do? Sasori asked condensingly. I don't mind leaving it as a stalemate for now. You're the one that has issues about making people wait. I, on the other hand, can stand here the whole day if I want to. Naruto retorted smugly, once again, getting on the rogue puppeteer's nerves with his cheeky remarks and unpredictable behavior. Then I'll make you move, Sasori declared confidently, forming and launching another super-fast barrage of iron needles from his abundance of iron sand, except instead of targeting Chiyo as he previously had been doing, now targeting the blonde Uzumaki while at the same time watching Chiyo at the corner of his eye in anticipation of the moment where Naruto is forced to deactivate his barrier. That was, however, not to be, as Naruto released more chakra chains, this time from his belly, that instantly formed a circular barrier around his own body, the barrier easily deflecting away each and every iron needle that crashed into it. At about the same time that the needles made contact with the barrier, a number of puffs of smoke and poofing sounds could be seen and heard respectively as some of Sasori's defeated puppets turned into replicas of the blonde Jinchuriki, 10 of them to be exact, all holding Razengans on their right hands and attacking Sasori from all directions much like he had done against Chiyo with his iron needles. Kyuso! He had his clones transformed into my defeated puppets all this time, Sasori thought in surprise. That's an attack from every direction, there's nowhere to dodge, he can't escape this one, Naruto thought from the safety of his own chakra chain barrier. Rasengan barrage! The clones exclaimed as their attack made direct contact. Boom! Was the terrible sound caused by the impact, a strong shockwave as a result washing over the entirety of the cave, sending debris, dust, and puppet body parts flying around the inside of the cave violently, some of it going as far as hitting the barrier that was protecting Chiyo and Naruto respectively. Is it over, Naruto-chan? Chiyo asked with bated breath. And no, it's not over. My clones have been destroyed. Naruto replied with a serious expression. But how? Chio asked with a confused expression. Look, Naruto said, pointing his index finger at Sasori's direction as the dust screen cleared to reveal something else where Sasori once stood, a gigantic ball-like barrier made entirely of iron sand with large spikes protruding out in all directions. Daisen no Mi. Sasori's voice sounded from inside the sphere of iron sand as more iron sand gathered on the upper left portion of the sphere, forming an human-sized actual eye complete with a rotating pupil that was floating in the air. It is best for me to continue the battle from the safety of this battle formation. Uzumaki Naruto is full of surprises. Who would have thought that he would have clones hinged into puppets, such a juvenile yet deadly effective tactic? I could have been dead now if it wasn't for the Kazekage's powers. Sasori thought wearily. That's Sandaime-sama's sand shield and third eye technique. He's better at controlling the third's powers than I could have thought possible. It's almost like fighting the third himself. We have to be careful, Naruto-chan. Chio warned. I know, I've seen Gaara use this technique before, in the Chunin exams 3 years ago. However, this guy's shield seems to be much stronger than Gaara's shield. Naruto replied. That is because he is using a strong magnetic force to keep the sand granules locked together. Also, iron is generally stronger than actual sand. No one has ever breached Sandaime-sama's shield. It's virtually impossible to break through it with any kind of force. Chio explained. True, this shield is once said to have withstood the force of Shikaka's tailed beast ball. The two of you have no hope of defeating me. Surrender yourselves to me, and you shall be granted a peaceful death. Sasori said from inside the sand shield, watching the duo intently through his third eye technique. Naruto-chan, how long can you keep these barriers activated? Chio asked suddenly. I can keep them up for a whole day, probably, maybe more. Why? Naruto asked curiously. There is no force capable of breaking through that shield. The key is to inflict a fatal blow before the shield is put in place. Once he puts it up, any hope of winning is lost in that moment. But it seems like the same is true for your own barriers too. This battle, in effect, is now a stalemate. However, reinforcements from Suna and Konoha are sure to arrive at a later stage. I'm quite confident that you, as an Uzumaki and a Jinchuriki, should be able to outlast Sasori. If we simply wait, reinforcements will arrive and Sasori along with that puppet will run out of chakra. Victory will be assured. Chio suggested analytically. Heh? I wouldn't be so sure about that if I were you. Sasori laughed confidently. He's right, Chiyoba-sama. Just look at him now, his shield, along with that eye, are floating in the air. If it comes down to it, Sasori will just retreat by floating out of here. Not only would he escape like that, but because he'd be using the skies, he would also leave no trail for anyone to track him down. Naruto explained, politely refuting Chiyo's plan of action, or rather, plan of no action. True, but the Akatsuki still have to hunt down the tailed beasts. His escape will only give us time to prepare an effective battle strategy against him now that we have intel on his abilities. Chio said logically. No, that's not good enough for me. Have you forgotten that he also has intel on my abilities? The whole Akatsuki organization will know about my progress if he is allowed to escape. I have to finish him off now. Naruto retorted. Don't be stupid, boy. I already told you that there is no force capable of breaching Sandaime-sama's iron sand shield. Chio chastised the blonde Uzumaki, angered by the boy's childish impatience and brash attitude. Chiyoba-sama, is there anything important that you still want to do? Naruto asked with a sudden ominous tone. Boy, what's gotten into you all of a sudden? Chio asked with a frustrated expression. I mean, if we could defeat Sasori, and you were free to leave this cave, is there anything important that you would want to do? Please answer the question before you say anything else. Naruto demanded with a no-nonsense tone. Well, there is something important that I want to do before I leave this earth, Chio said solemnly. And that is? Naruto asked, more like demanded really. There's a jutsu that I created a long time ago. It is a kinjutsu that only I know how to perform. I had saved this jutsu for Sasori in case of an emergency situation. But now, all things considered, maybe it just wasn't meant for him, maybe it was meant for someone else. Chio said, arousing not only Naruto's curiosity but even Sasori's, or rather, especially Sasori's curiosity. What jutsu is this? Naruto asked curiously. It is a jutsu to revive the dead by transferring one's own life force to that of the deceased. The renewal of life force in the body acts as a beacon that attracts the departed soul back to the body, with the effect of the deceased coming back to life. Chio explained with sad eyes. If what you say is true, then doesn't that mean that you would die? Do you expect me to believe that a cynical old hag like you would sacrifice their life for anyone, Or do you think that sacrificing yourself will automatically wash away all of the heinous sins you have committed in your life? Give me a break, Sasori said mockingly. It doesn't matter whether my sins are washed away or not, that child deserves a second chance. He doesn't deserve to die like this after everything that he has been put through, after everything he has been forced to sacrifice at such a young age. Unlike you, he was able to look past himself and his own suffering and think about the well-being of others. Unlike you, he was brave enough to endure and change the people of Suna. He was strong enough to battle against adversity and fulfill his dreams. Chio said, shocking a pissed-off Sasori into silence with her response. Why you plan to resurrect Gaara, don't you? Naruto asked with astonishment and realization. I was the one that sealed Shikaku into him. I was the one that brought darkness into his life. I never helped him afterwards, nor did I even apologize for my actions. I acted like I had done absolutely nothing wrong. The least I can do for him now is to give him a chance to live a life without the darkness that Shikaku has overshadowed his life with. A life of new possibilities and brighter avenues to explore. Gaara-kun deserves at least that much. Chio said, not even sure why she was pouring her heart out in such a situation. Naruto was caught in quite a dilemma himself. His plan was initially to kill Chiyoba-sama himself. That was why he had asked her if there was anything important that she wanted to do if they were to survive Sasori. If there was nothing important, then he would kill her with a clear conscience. If there was something that she wanted to do, then he would try and see if he couldn't fulfill that wish for her, after killing her, of course. It would have been so easy too, with her stuck inside his barrier with no means to defend herself. He would have just crushed her with his chakra chains, and then he could easily write it off to the others as Sasori's doing with his iron sand. Chio knew too much about him now for his liking. She now knew about his chakra chain technique, and she also knew that he knew about his mother, the Uzumaki clan, and the clan's kenjutsu. Not only that, but she also knew he has a bloodline limit, even if she didn't know what it is exactly. None of this was information that he wanted people to know about if he could help it. Too many problems would come his way as a result. Also, Naruto was now aware that he would have to reveal more secrets in order to defeat Sasori after the puppeteer's latest stunt and possible other stunts that he might have up his sleeves. That was going to make Chio even more of a loose end. Another reason for wanting to kill her was because she was no longer useful. She in fact was now slowing him down. Without her puppet techniques, she was basically useless in combat. Okay, maybe not useless in general combat, but certainly useless against someone of Sasori's talents and resources. Now, however, having heard what Chio intended to do, Naruto wasn't so sure what to do. He still wanted to kill her just to be sure. That was the right thing to do according to General Shinobi Code. But Gaara was one of his few genuine friends. Sure, he wasn't as close to him as he was now with Fuchan, Yakumo-chan, and Niji, but still, outside those three, Gaara was really his only true friend. Not only that, but Fu had passionately argued that they involve the other Jinchuriki in their plans, stating that New Whirlpool should be a place where people like them could enjoy a happy and peaceful existence, also pointing out that it was incredibly unlikely that any Jinchuriki would reject their offer to join them considering who and what they were to each other. Of course, Naruto had rejected such a plan. For one, two of those Jinchuriki were kages of their own villages, therefore had great responsibilities to their people. Those two were unlikely to leave their posts to follow a bunch of teenagers with big dreams, no matter how strong those teenagers were. The rest of the Jinchuriki were either directly related to the current kages of their villages, or to precious kage in their villages. Some of them were even part of respected clans in their home villages. Naruto also recognized the danger they would all be in if all of them banded together and formed an organization. The other villages in Akatsuki wouldn't take that lightly at all. It was possible that they would end up having the whole ninja world band together against them. After all, they would be seen as a danger to all of society. If Iwa, Kumo, and Kiri could form a temporary truce just for the sake of taking out the Uzumaki clan, one can only imagine what the five great nations, and even the other smaller nations, would do to stop a Jinchuriki alliance. And there would still be the threat of Akatsuki lurking in the shadows on top of that. No, as much as Naruto wanted to help the other Jinchuriki, forming an alliance with them would not be a very good idea. Still, Naruto knew that Fu might possibly never forgive him if she ever found out that he allowed another Jinchuriki to die needlessly, or rather, to remain dead when he could have helped him, especially one that was supposedly his friend. Then she would wonder if he wouldn't do the same to her or their other friends and comrades. Besides, Naruto also didn't like the idea of Gaara dying when he could have done something to help him survive. That would literally make him no different from Sasori, or even worse, Orochimaru. Not that he was too far off from them now that he actually thought about it. Maybe I should allow her to live for a while. After all, she is going to die if she revives Gaara. Kakashi and Sakura will have their hands full with Deidara. She wouldn't get a chance to brief anyone about what happened anyway. This is a risk, but I guess it's one I'll have to take for a friend. Besides, I can't keep my skill level a secret forever. Worst case scenario is that I have to defect almost immediately. It will also be easier to do it considering how far I am from Konoha. Naruto thought logically. Alright. I'm going to help you escape while I hold Sasori off. Call for backup and do what you have to do to help Gaara. We'll meet again in the afterlife, though if you'll excuse me for saying this, I doubt it will be any time soon. Naruto said without batting an eyelash. You can't be serious. You can't possibly be thinking about fighting Sasori on your own. Let me help you. Chio retorted passionately. I don't mean to offend you, but what do you think you can do to help me now? Take a good look at the situation you're in for a moment. Naruto replied coldly, causing Chio's eyes to widen in realization. You're out of puppets and you don't have anything to counter against the Sandame's magnetic release. In fact, if it wasn't for my intervention, you'd be dead right now. Sasori's is now using you to create openings to attack me because he knows I'll protect you. You've helped me a lot to get this far and you've been a great source of information, but you have to learn to let go and allow the next generation to take over. After all, isn't that the very same reason that you want to revive Gaara at the expense of your own life? Naruto retorted. He's right. As it is now, I'm just a parcel weighing him down. When did I become so useless? Has the next generation really surpassed us already? Chio thought with regret and sadness. Okay, do what you have to do, Naruto-chan, and I will do what I have to do, but only if you promise me one thing. Chio trailed off. And what would that be, Chiyoba-sama? Naruto asked curiously, hoping beyond hope that he wouldn't be forced to make a promise that he didn't intend to keep. Don't die. Promise me that you won't die until backup arrives, Chio said with hope in her eyes. I have no intention of dying, trust me, you have no reason to worry about anything of the sort, Naruto said with a cheeky smile, causing Chio herself to smile happily, almost as if Naruto's words alone were fact that couldn't be changed no matter what. When did I start caring about what happens to foreign shinobi? Naruto-chan really does have something special about him, the power to change people, huh? Chio thought with a mental shake of the head. But more importantly, how does Naruto-chan intend to help me escape? No, even more importantly, how does he intend to defeat Sasori? Does he really have something that can destroy the magnetic iron shield? Chio wondered with uncertainty. Okay, Chiyoba-sama, I want you to start running as soon as I release the barrier. You should be able to make it to the outside when the time comes, Naruto ordered authoritatively. Okay. Chio acknowledged. So he really does have something else up his sleeve, Chio thought, watching in awe as a second Naruto popped into existence next to the blonde Uzumaki, the clone waving its hands around Naruto's right arm as it infused wind chakra into the Rasengan that Naruto was now holding on his right arm, turning the jutsu into a spiraling chakra shuriken with an ear-popping, screeching sound. Futon, Rasen Shuriken, Naruto announced with his right hand held upwards. He infused Futon into the Rasengan to create a chakra shuriken? This jutsu is no doubt on another level, an S-class jutsu without question. However, this technique, no matter how strong he thinks it is, can't be more powerful and destructive than Shikaku's tailed beast ball. I should be safe as long as I remain inside this sphere, Sasori thought. Naruto-chan, I don't know what you think that jutsu can do, but you can't. Chio trailed off as the blonde cut her out mid-sentence. This jutsu releases millions of microscoping chakra needles upon contact. In other words, it destroys living beings and objects alike at molecular level. So you see, it doesn't matter how strong Sasori's shield is, the microscopic wind blades should be able to penetrate the sphere and make contact with Sasori himself. Even if they don't manage to do this, the shield will be dismantled and there will be an opening to attack. Naruto explained much to both Chio and Sasori's amazement, or rather, horror and fear on Sasori. However, having realized the possible danger he was in, Sasori quickly established an iron sand formation of needles around the blonde Uzumaki as insurance. You'll have to take down the chain barrier in order to attack me with that jutsu, unless you believe that you're actually fast enough to dodge all of these needles, Sasori taunted. That's what you think, Naruto said confidently, drawing his arm backwards before throwing the chakra shuriken towards Sasori's sand shield with all his might. Fool what? Sasori thought out loud as the blonde Uzumaki once again pulled off an unexpected maneuver. Sasori, having seen the blonde Uzumaki throw that nasty-looking shuriken, expected him to drop the chakra chain barrier, as that would and should be expected unless he wanted to commit suicide. Therefore, one can understand why Sasori would be caught off guard when the blonde didn't drop the barrier but instead simply allowed the chakra shuriken to phase through the barrier somehow. Sasori's first thought when this happened was that the blonde Uzumaki had cancelled the barrier already but had set up an illusion of the barrier in its place. However, that was immediately disproved as his chakra needles, which had been timed to pass through the point where the barrier would have been at the same moment that the chakra shuriken was expected to do the same, were deflected away from the blonde Uzumaki. This told Sasori that the barrier was indeed still active, a scenario which then begged the question, how did the shuriken phase through the barrier? Does that mean that he can deactivate specific areas of the barrier while leaving others still activated? Sasori pondered with what would have been a confused expression had he possessed a real human body. However, Akasuna no Sasori did not have the time to entertain such trivial thoughts, not when death was literally flying towards him at breakneck speeds. With survival firmly embedded into his mind, Sasori ejected himself and the third Kazekage from the back of the sand sphere a good second before the Raisin Shuriken made contact with the sand, the legendary puppeteer jumping down with the intention of landing safely on the surface of the cave far below the sand shield and consequently, far away from the Raisin Shuriken's trajectory. Naruto, with instantaneous speed, released the barrier around both himself and Chiyo, wrapped a chakra chain around her ankle, and literally threw her through the doorway and out of the cave. Following that maneuver, the blonde Jinchuriki cancelled the chakra feed to the chains, causing the jutsu to collapse and disappear altogether. Everything was done so fast that even after all that, the chakra shuriken had yet to make contact with the iron shield and Sasori had not reached the surface of the cave yet. This was just how Naruto planned it out to be, as the stage was set perfectly for him to execute the next phase of his plan to assassinate Akasuna no Sasori. Swift release, shadowless flight. Naruto and the shadow clone on his right-hand side whispered simultaneously. Naruto and his shadow clone flew at his enemy at hypersonic speeds, the original targeting the third Kazekage and the clone targeting the real Sasori, both ramming their respective Raisengans on the abdomen of their targets with great velocity, aggression, and strength. The power and speed behind the attack was so great that the Sasori and the Kazekage went right through the back wall and out the other side of the cave along with the two blondes before the effects of the Raisengan took effect, the duo getting flung away a great distance, crashing through many boulders and even trees before crashing into the ground, the impact leaving large craters around where their bodies landed. Sasori had no idea what happened, largely due to the fact that he didn't even see what happened to begin with. All he remembered was that he had escaped through the back of the iron shield with the intention to surprise attack the blonde Uzumaki. He certainly didn't expect to find himself at the bottom of a crater 100 meters away from the cave. Boom! Naruto once again had to activate his chakra chain barrier to protect himself as the Raisin Shuriken, after all that, finally exploded, destroying the whole Akatsuki base in the process as dust and debris flew around the entirety of the battlefield. The fact that the jutsu was only now taking effect was a true testament of the blonde Uzumaki's speed with the swift release. Naruto waited patiently for everything to settle down before deactivating his barrier, marveling at the sheer power and destruction caused by the Raisin Shuriken as he observed the site of the former Akatsuki base. One Akatsuki down, approximately 9 more to go. What? Naruto trailed off, eyes wide in utter shock and surprise, his senses detecting a presence hovering behind him a good 30 meters above the surface. Without hesitation, Naruto spun around to face his seemingly immortal opponent, eyes widening even further in surprise when he took in the sight before his eyes. Sasori's Akatsuki cloak and the Kazekage's clothes were torn to shreds by the fatal damage that should have been sustained by the puppeteer and his puppet respectively, but there was no actual injury in sight. Instead, each of their bodies were covered with numerous cracks all over their bodies, more especially the area branching out from the dent where Naruto's Raisengans had made contact. However, the cracks and even the dent mended together and disappeared before Naruto's very own eyes. Naruto wanted to smack his head into a wall with realization at his own foolishness. Yes, he'd sensed that Sasori and the Kazekage's bodies seemed to be shrouded in some kind of thin layer of chakra, but he'd ignored that particular detail as he couldn't make out what it meant exactly. He'd actually thought that maybe Sasori was preparing a jutsu that he considered to be irrelevant because he was going to use swift release to strike first. He should have, but he never realized that the chakra shrouding that he sensed was actually this. He now realized who inspired most and even possibly every jutsu in Gaara's arsenal. He covered his and the Kazekage's whole body with iron sand for protection against physical attacks. This is the same technique as Gaara's sand armor technique, except this one is much stronger. Impressive, Sasori really did master the Kazekage's powers to their full extent. I suppose it's to be expected, he's a real genius, not to mention, he's actually had the Kazekage in his arsenal for roughly 20 years now, that should have given him more than enough practice time. Naruto thought. Uzumaki Naruto, you have done well to survive this long against me. I haven't been pushed this far since I fought Leader-sama, Sasori said with a serene expression. Uzumaki Naruto is predominantly a close-range combatant, this is good. Now that we're outside of the cave, I can actually fly out of his attack range while I attack him from the skies. This is, after all, one of the main strengths of the third's iron sand technique. Sasori thought delightedly. Leader, who is this leader exactly? Naruto asked curiously. You won't get any answers from me, Unless you think you can force them out of me, Sasori said simply. What a cocky thing to say. Is it because you think you're safe from me now that you're flying? Naruto asked rhetorically. Save your words, they are meaningless. I won't suddenly lose my temperament and respond to your taunting. You won't be able to manipulate me into close combat. I'm immune to such trivial emotions and urges, Sasori retorted. I see. Well, in that case, Naruto trailed off, the blonde focusing his chakra with his left hand formed into a one-handed ram seal. Secret jutsu, chakra suppression chains, Naruto said calmly. Following the instant that Naruto announced the name of his technique, a sealing matrix appeared over the Kazekage's abdomen as a multitude of gold-colored, glowing chakra chains burst out of the seal and wrapped themselves tightly around the puppet's limbs and body. The effect of this new development was immediate. The chakra chains were meant to not only restrict movement but to suppress chakra as well. Therefore, with the Kazekage's chakra no longer accessible, this meant that Sasori no longer had the ability to manipulate iron sand, hence the immediate collapse of Sasori iron sand armor and the fall of the flying mat-like sand that he was standing on and using defy gravity. Without these iron sand benefits, Sasori found himself forced to detach the chakra threads connecting him to the Kazekage as he was sent plummeting from the skies along with the chained-up Kazekage. Naruto waited for the moment just before Sasori landed on the ground before activating the swift release, shadowless flight technique again, this time aiming for Sasori's chest cavity after seeing what Sasori looked like without his cloak. Sasori, with his iron sand armor falling off, and about to make contact with the ground, realized immediately that landing on that surface would be to the literal and true death of him. That is why, with that realization, Sasori activated a seal on his back, a seal that projected a set of spinning wings on his back. This maneuver proved to be life-saving as Naruto's attack missed completely, the blonde hitting thin air as Sasori's trajectory was all of a sudden completely reversed, the puppeteer flying up and away from the surface to the safety of the skies once again. Naruto took this in stride though, the blonde Uzumaki not betting an eyelash at all, simply canceling his Rasengan and changing his trajectory and direction so that he can catch the falling Kazekage in his arms before it crashed into the ground. Following that maneuver, Naruto released a storage scroll from a storage seal on his left wrist, spread it out on the surface and sealed the Kazekage into the scroll poofing away and into his storage seal only a moment later. He sealed away the Kazekage? Sasori thought, not really sure what to make of the blonde Uzumaki's actions. Naruto, seeing the questioning look on his adversary's expression, went on to explain without any verbal prompting from the rogue puppeteer. Earlier, I disrespected your art by calling you an old man that likes to play with dolls. I would like to take that back. In fact, I would actually like to apologize for that. Your art is simply amazing and incredibly dangerous. Actually, you are the most powerful opponent I have ever faced by a substantial margin, Naruto said sincerely. What does that have to do with you sealing away my prized possession? Sasori asked curiously, seemingly unfazed by the blonde Uzumaki's flattery. I want to study this human puppet technique of yours. It would be a great technique to add to the Uzumaki clan archives, Naruto said honestly. I thought so. Your words of praise were insincere after all, Sasori said, causing the blonde Uzumaki to frown with confusion. What do you mean? Naruto asked. You praised me as the strongest opponent you have ever faced, and even claimed to have a genuine desire to learn my art because of how powerful it is, yet, at the same time, you talk down to me as if victory is already assured for you. The fact that you think that you will live long enough to exhume that puppet body and learn its secrets is more than enough proof of your insincerity, Sasori said with a strict and critical attitude. Oh, I see what you mean. However, you'll have to forgive me, but I don't see how you can win this battle now. Not only have you lost your trump card, but your one weakness has also been revealed to me. What can you do in your current situation? Naruto asked, pointedly staring at the heart box in Sasori's chest cavity that contained the only living remains of his original human body. We shall see about that, Uzumaki Naruto, Sasori said venomously. Uzumaki Naruto is unpredictable. I never imagined someone like him would be interested in learning what many have considered to be an abomination of a technique that disrespects the dead. Not only that, but he's exceptionally smart. He even intended to capture the Kazekage from the beginning. Earlier, he explained the mechanics behind the Rasen Shuriken to Chiobaba, but that explanation was not intended for her, it was intended for me, Sasori thought as he tried to retrace the steps that lead him to exactly where he was at the moment. He wanted to kill me, but he didn't want to destroy the Kazekage puppet, so he indirectly warned me of the dangers so that I can escape the Rasen Shuriken. At the time, I thought it was his inexperience that made him give away such important information, but I was the one who was being exploited instead. He just wanted me and the Kazekage out of that sphere at any cost. Furthermore, when he and his clone hit us with Rasengan, he used a low-powered Rasengan on the Kazekage and a fully powered one on me, That's how it felt, and that was also proven by the minimal amount of damage on the Kazekage's sand armor compared to mine. Also, at the same time, he placed a sealing jutsu on the Kazekage but didn't place one on me. This is further confirmation that he was going for the kill with regards to me, but was only trying to capture the Kazekage puppet. However, the sealing jutsu would have been unnecessary if I had died from that Rasengan because there would have no longer been a puppeteer to control the Kazekage. What was on his mind at the time then? Did he expect me to survive somehow, or did he think that I had traps within the Kazekage set to activate upon my death, or traps set to activate if someone else tried to fiddle with the puppet? Those are the only possible reason for using the sealing jutsu on the Kazekage only and not me. Why else would he have done that? Sasori thought, unable to help himself but to fear for the outcome of this battle. He would never admit this to anyone, but the blonde Jinchuriki's powers, combined with his intellect, scared the crap out of him. Sasori, snapping out of his reverie, released a number of seals himself, 2 on each side of his torso, below his arms, and 1 on each of his shoulders. The seals glowed only for a moment and then, with a puff of smoke, released Sasori's latest attack formation, each seal releasing an extra arm for Sasori to use in combat. Sasori controlled all 8 arms to point downwards with the palms of each hand open and facing downwards as a seal formed on each of the palms. He's got what now, 8 arms? What is that supposed to be used for? Naruto thought wearily. I need to confirm the extent of his speed before doing anything else. This should do the trick. Sasori thought, the rogue puppeteer channeling his chakra to each of his palms, each of the seals on each palm to be exact. Secret puppet art, water jet barrage. Sasori whispered, the seals on his palms shooting water jets at ridiculous speeds simultaneously and continuously. Swift release, flash step technique. Naruto whispered before disappearing from his position altogether. Sasori's water jet was a jutsu comprised of a storage seal variation that stored a near limitless amount of water, compressed said water, and expelled it in a compressed form at inhuman speeds. One seal had the ability to release these jets at continuous intervals with barely any time at all between intervals. On top of that, the seal was placed on the palm of a puppet arm that itself had the ability to twist around and move about with inhuman reflexes, agility, and speed. Now, take that all together, and add the fact that there are actually 8 of those arms shooting successive barrages of water jets that are fast and powerful enough to penetrate almost any defense, and one can imagine what kind of danger a shinobi facing this technique would find themselves in, especially considering that Sasori created this jutsu as a potential counter to Namikaze Minato's Flying Thunder God technique. After all, who in the shinobi world hadn't heard of the yellow flash of Konoha and his heroics on the battlefield? Sasori didn't know whether to be surprised or not. What he was seeing was something that should not be possible. Yet he was seeing it with his very own eyes. Okay, so he didn't have actual eyes anymore, but his puppet body did, and what it was seeing should not have been possible. It literally looked like Naruto was everywhere at the same time, to the point that Sasori wasn't even aiming to hit Naruto anymore. How could he, when there were so many afterimages of him all over the battlefield? He was now just launching the water jets everywhere that he thought the blonde might be and everywhere else around the battleground. He knew it wasn't a genjutsu, and he could tell that it wasn't an illusionary ninjutsu either. The blonde Jinchuriki really was moving at that kind of speed. The battle proceeded in this manner for the next 25 minutes straight. Sasori knew that it was hopeless, but he was hoping that Naruto would get tired enough to slow down, become sloppy in his movements, or both. But neither happened. Naruto's stamina was quite ridiculous, even for a Jinchuriki. Sasori had to find out the hard way, his water jet seals eventually running out of water, something else that he never experienced or seen before. Just as well, Sasori supposed, those seals required quite a substantial amount of chakra to maintain altogether. He wouldn't have been able to keep it up for much longer anyway. Is that it? Was that your ultimate offensive jutsu? Naruto asked. No, I have another one, but I already know that it won't work either, not against your chakra chain barrier. And I know now that your reflexes are good enough to activate it in time, so you see, it's pointless now. I can't defeat you. Sasori conceded with the same even tone and stoic demeanor. So then, you'll surrender and allow me to kill you? Naruto asked with a quirk eyebrow, not really believing that Sasori would admit defeat so casually. No, I still have enough chakra to fly out of here safely. I'll retreat for now and warn the others about you. Probably, leader will send a team more A-keep to deal with your unique powers, or maybe, just maybe, he'll come after you himself. That would be interesting to see, Sasori said with amusement. That would be the smart thing to do, but I'm sorry, I can't allow you to do that, Naruto said, snapping his hands together in concentration and flaring his chakra slightly. He's preparing another jutsu? I'd better fly away quickly and nanny, Sasori thought in surprise, looking down only to see a spear made out of ice sticking out of his chest cavity, right through the heart box that contains the only remains of his actual flesh. Forgive me, but I cannot allow any harm to come to Naruto-kun. This is the end of the line for you, Sasori-san. Sasori heard a soft but emotionless voice coming from behind him. The rogue Suna puppeteer's head twisted around in an unnatural, complete 180-degree to get a clear view of what exactly transpired. One can imagine his surprise when he saw not only the face of his murder, but also the method of attack that was used to execute the deed, the Akatsuki member coming face to face with an effeminate male figure with big brown eyes and long raven hair with a ponytail tied with a top knot, and 2 long bangs framing his soft and strangely beautiful facial features. The figure wearing a dark blue kimono with black shinobi pants wrapped with white bandages at the ankles and dark blue shinobi sandals. Carrying a single weapons pouch located on his left thigh. Why you? That jutsu, you're Momochi Yukihaku, aren't you? You're supposed to be dead. Sasori exclaimed uncharacteristically, staring at the strange scene with disbelief. The young boy, looking no older than 15 years old, was protruding only half of his body from a mirror made out of ice, holding a spear, also made out of ice, on his right hand, the same spear that was responsible for fatal damage that Sasori just a few moments ago sustained. Naruto-kun was concerned and weary about getting captured by you and your friends, so he summoned me before he departed for this mission, asking only that I watch his back and help him win if it looks like he is about to lose. I accepted, of course. He is, after all, a very precious person to me. Haku replied simply. Did you just say that you were summoned? Sasori asked harshly, experiencing a combination of emotions at the same time, astonishment, realization and disbelief being the predominant ones. You're about to die anyway, so there's no harm in telling you. I was summoned through the Edo Tensei technique. You're not the only one that can use the powers of the deceased, it seems. Haku stated matter-of-factly, proceeding to disintegrate his ice spear and teleport both himself and Sasori to Naruto's location. It seemed his master and dear friend wanted to have a word with the puppeteer before his departure to the afterlife. The Nidaime Hokage's reanimation jutsu, huh? Uzumaki Naruto, you are one interesting individual indeed. I never would have expected this kind of jutsu from someone like you. Sasori said with what would have been a smile on his face had he possessed a normal human body. The puppeteer now standing a lone meter away from the blonde Uzumaki, with Haku now standing on Naruto's right-hand side. We both underestimated each other. I never expected something as crazy as the human puppet technique from you either, Naruto said with an amused smile plastered on his face. Hey, modesty even in the face of victory. You're a strange person. I can't honestly say that I have met anyone like you before, not counting myself, of course. You've been drawing comparisons between us for quite a while now. Initially, I had no idea where you were coming from, that is until I heard the story about your past. You see, I was also betrayed and manipulated by the Sandaime Hokage, and his students seem to have taken a page from his book too. I also know, just like you, what it feels like to face scorn and hatred from your own countrymen. To have your own people, the people you have spent your entire life protecting, throw all your efforts back at your face, even wishing that you would simply disappear and never return, that is one of the greatest of pains a person can ever experience. Even though you're not a Jinchuriki, I can't help but feel like you and I could come to understand one another, Naruto said nostalgically. You have presented some interesting points, all of which I would find it hard to dispute. But where are you going with this, Uzumaki Naruto? Sasori asked curiously. Earlier, you told me that you and I could have become good friends in a different world. That got me thinking, what if I were to create this different world? If I were to succeed and create the world that you were talking about, would you be willing to give our friendship a chance? Would you be able to put the past behind you and put in a sincere effort in starting a new life by my side, as friends? Naruto asked with a dead serious tone, staring at Sasori's eyes with an inquisitive expression. Are you aware of the fatal injury that your friend from the Yuki clan has inflicted on me? Unless you can create this new world of yours within the next 5 minutes, there is no value in even considering your words at this point, Sasori said matter-of-factly. Then let me ask you this rhetorical question. Are you aware of my ability to resurrect the dead with the Edo Tensei technique? Naruto asked with condensing sarcasm. So by friendship, you actually meant that you wanted me to be a mere puppet in your jutsu arsenal? Sasori asked indignantly. I don't understand why you're so offended. Have you taken a good look at yourself lately? You're already a puppet, and I had nothing to do with that. You did that all by yourself, Naruto retorted with a triumphant smirk. That was a good one, Naruto-kun. I don't think he has a comeback for that, Haku said with an amused smile. I know, but anyway, that was just a joke, Sasori-san. I don't intend to turn you into a puppet, at least, not my puppet, Naruto said, adopting a serious tone and expression once again. Then whose puppet would I become? Sasori asked with a hint of cynicism. Right now you're your own puppet, and that is how it would be when I resurrect you. Don't think that I don't know what you were trying to do when you did this to yourself. I understand perfectly. When we first met, you were arguing with Deidara about what true art really is. That time, you said that art is something that has a beauty that is everlasting, something that can transcend time itself. You then went on to allude to the fact that your puppets do exactly that. They transcend time and can exist for a countless number of years. Following that, I then found out that you tried to turn yourself into those very puppets that you claimed to have the ability to transcend time, and add the fact that your former partner in the Akatsuki was Orochimaru, someone who has sought immortality since he was but a teenager. Well, when I put all of that into account, it makes it quite easy to discern what your greatest dream is in this world. You wish to become immortal, to exist forever so that you can continue to make breakthroughs in your art. You wish to create one of the greatest, if not the greatest of legacies in the history of the elemental nations, even surpassing that of the Sage of the Six Paths. Isn't that right, Sasori? Naruto asked rhetorically. Listen, I'm not trying to turn you into my puppet. The body of a reanimated person is ageless, immortal, and has an unlimited chakra pool. In other words, the reanimated person's body has the ability to transcend time itself. I won't bind you to my will. I'll allow you to be yourself. I'll even use the Uzumaki clan's contract seal if it will make you feel any better. Contract seal? What is that jutsu? What is its purpose? Sasori asked with sudden curiosity. The contract seal is a kinjutsu of the Uzumaki clan created as a counter to the summoning technique. The application of this seal severs the connection between the summoner and his summons. Since the reanimation technique is a summoning variation, the contract seal should be able to sever the connection between a reanimated body and its summoner. Sasori, you're running out of time, you're going to die soon, please make your decision. Naruto pleaded with a concerned expression. Why are you willing to go this far for me? I tried to capture you and eventually kill you, I threatened to torture you, and even threatened your lover. Why would you go this far for someone like me? And what guarantee do you have that I won't betray you? I'm still a member of the Akatsuki. Sasori asked incredulously. Because you remind me of myself, killing you without giving you a second chance would be the same as killing myself. Your methods, your history, your personality, and even your dreams aren't too different from mine. In fact, you and I are so much alike that it hurts just to witness the end of your road. If this is how it ends for you, then what does that say about my future? You're so naive, you really think that I will betray the organization for a stranger like you? Listen to me carefully, Akatsuki is a well-organized institution with a clear vision and step-by-step process, and plan to achieve its goals. Akatsuki has given me purpose, a goal to look forward to, and they have even entrusted me with an important role in the organization. I run one of the most essential departments in the organization, the espionage division. Akatsuki, unlike my former friends and family, did not judge me or fear me. Instead, they appreciated my talents, even lauded them, and even found a good use for them. If you believe for 1 second that I will betray them for you, then you are even more foolish than I originally thought, Sasori said with unwavering conviction. Sasori, I don't think you understand what I was trying to say. I'm not as naive as you seem to think I am. Thinking like that only tells me how much you're still underestimating me. And what is that supposed to mean exactly? Sasori demanded. I would never ask you to betray your comrades, just as I will never betray my true comrades. I have founded a new organization. We go by the name Akakitsun. This organization's purpose is to kill each and every member of the Akatsuki, to destroy Konoha, and finally, to help in rebuilding the new village hidden in the whirlpools. This is part of the new world that I plan to create. However, I'm not naive enough to believe that the other ninja villages will sit idly while all of this is happening. Suna, as allies of Konoha, will likely become an enemy to our new organization. Kumo, Kiri, and IWA were originally responsible for the destruction of the old Whirlpool village. A re-establishment of the village will be seen as a major threat by them. As a result, a fourth great shinobi war is a very likely result whichever way you look at it. There are strong strings that connect you with the Akatsuki, but in the new world that I plan to create, Akatsuki does not exist, and depending on how negotiations with the Kazakage Gaara go, Suna will not exist either. This is when I plan to resurrect you, when the strings that connect you to your past have been completely severed, enabling you to form new strings to connect with us, the new Whirlpool Village. I want you to help us win the Fourth Shinobi World War. At the end of this war, there will only be one remaining village. It will be the last war. We will take over everything at the end of this war and unite the shinobi world into one unit, just like the samurai have done in the land of will finally be peace in the world. Naruto explained with conviction. I can't believe it. Who would have thought that such a young child would conceive something like this? So then, this means that all that talk about becoming Hokage was a load of rubbish altogether. He never intended to become the Hokage, but rather, his real dream is to become the Uzumaki. Uzumaki Naruto, you and I will make good friends indeed. Sasori thought with intrigue and, dare he say, a little excitement. With the destruction of Konoha and Akatsuki, There will be an abundance of corpses to use for your human puppet technique, and an abundance of DNA for me to use the reanimation technique. These jutsu will help us compensate for our shortage in numbers as a new hidden village. I do have a few clans that have joined the village already, but they won't be enough. The reanimation jutsu will be needed, so will your human puppet technique. Naruto explained, taking a short breath before asking the make or break question. So, what will you do, Sasori-san? Will you join the hidden whirlpool village? Will you become my friend? Naruto asked with bated breath. Alright, I have heard you, Uzumaki Naruto. And yes, if you manage, as unlikely as that is, to create a world in which Akatsuki no longer exists, I will believe in you. I will believe in your vision, and I will sincerely give our friendship a chance. I will join the village hidden in the whirlpools. From that moment onwards, I will become Sasori of the blood-red whirlpools. Sasori answered sincerely. Blood-red whirlpools? What do you mean by that? Haku asked curiously. Blood has to spilled in order for Uzushiogakure to exist, the blood of Akatsuki, the blood of Konoha, and the blood that will be spilled in the Fourth Shinobi War. Therefore, it is only appropriate for me to take on such a name. Sasori answered simply. I see, was all Haku said in response. Naruto-kun is determined to fulfill his dream even though he knows what it will cost to achieve it. His resolve is much greater than mine. Haku thought worriedly and even shamefully, knowing that he never would have had the strength to carry such a burden. He didn't have it in him to take a life no matter what the circumstances. The only reason he was able to deliver the fatal blow on Sasori was because Naruto used a control tag on him that took away his feelings of remorse. If it wasn't for that, his fear of taking a life would have hindered his ability to protect his best friend. Thank you, Sasori, your help will be appreciated, and most importantly, I'm glad that you gave us a chance. You won't regret this. Naruto promised. I should hope so. In any case, I don't have much time, so listen up. Sasori said, quickly channeling his chakra to the storage seal on his left arm, the seal, with a puff of smoke, releasing 2 books. One of them was a small hand book, and the other a very thick and heavy book. What are those? Naruto asked with a quirked eyebrow. The big one is a manual containing every single piece of information not only about Kagutsu in general, but about the secrets of my personalized kenjutsu, human puppet jutsu included. I thought that you would need this since you have taken possession of the Sandaime Kazekage. The small book is my journal containing my day-to-day running of my spy network and all the names, locations, and secrets of my contacts. It also contains meeting dates and a lot of other interesting facts. For this, I only ask one thing in return. Sasori trailed off suggestively. And that is? Naruto asked curiously. That you let it be known to the whole world that you are the prized student of Akasuna no Sasori. That is all I ask? Sasori said as if merely talking about the weather. I'm sorry, Sasori-san, but I can't do that. Naruto replied to the surprise of both Sasori and Haku. What did you say? Sasori asked incredulously. This technique, I did not intend to use it for myself, it contradicts with my fighting style. I intended to discover its secrets, and pass them on to one of my dear comrades. She needs it a lot more than I do, not only that, but she also has a jutsu that would complement this one to a great extent. But I will ask her to tell everyone that you are her sensei. I don't think she'll have a problem with it at all. Naruto said. I see. So, who is this person? As her sensei, I deserve to know her name at the very least. Sasori asked with more than a little curiosity. Her name is Kurama Yakumo. Here is a picture of her. Naruto said, pulling out a picture of the exotic beauty from a seal on his left wrist and showing it to the Akatsuki puppeteer. Kurama Yakumo, huh? A member of the nearly extinct Kurama clan. Where did you find someone like this? Sasori asked with a pleased undertone. I found her in Konoha. She is a once-in-a-century Kurama clan genius. Her illusions have the power to twist and alter reality itself. However, she has suffered from a chronic illness that has severely limited her physical capabilities, so much so that she was declared unfit to become a shinobi and deregistered from the Konoha ninja ranks. I was able to cure her recently, but she is still a few years behind in her physical conditioning. During our fight, I realized that Kagutsu enables the user to execute taijutsu and kenjutsu attacks that a normal human is incapable of producing. This should make up for her lack of physical training. Also, with her powerful, wide range, and nearly unbreakable reality-altering genjutsu, she can manipulate the battlefield to her liking. Heck, if she wanted to, she could even manipulate an enemy into believing the human puppet to be a real thing. I have other ideas for her specifically in which she could use this jutsu, but she is the only that can pull it off. Naruto trailed off as his mind was suddenly bombarded with a lot of crazy ideas for Yakumo's version of the human puppet technique. He's getting excited about someone else attaining power. Does he really trust this girl this much? Isn't he worried about her getting so strong? Sasori pondered. Are you sure about this, Naruto-kun? Can you really trust her with so much power? Haku, as if reading Sasori's thoughts, asked. Huh. Of course. Why wouldn't I trust her? Besides, this is for her own safety. She needs to have something that will make up for her current physical weakness. She's taken on a big risk by helping us with our goals. The least I can do is to look out for her well-being. Besides, if any one of our comrades gets stronger, then that is the same as us getting stronger. We are all different parts that, together, form one body. Remember that, Naruto said with conviction. I think I understand. Please forgive me, I didn't mean to be so negative. Haku apologized with a polite bow of the head. He's different from him. Zabuza-sama ruled with an iron fist, using overwhelming power to attain comrades and fear to prevent them from betraying him. Naruto-kun, on the other hand, gathers allies through friendship and uses trust and love to win over their loyalties. Two extremely different methods but equally effective. However, loyalty gained through fear can be lost easily if someone more powerful and scarier comes along, but loyalty gained from love and compassion cannot be lost so easily even in the face of certain death. Also, a leader who has the love of his comrades breeds a much more powerful shinobi force than one who rules with an iron fist. After all, a person can only attain true strength if he has something precious to protect. Haku thought nostalgically. Don't worry about it, I understand where you're coming from. I just want you to also understand where I am coming from, that's all. I understand, and I agree with you. I think that's a good and reasonable way of looking at it, Haku replied. In any case, I have entrusted everything to you, Naruto. Take care of my apprentice until my return. I have no intention of doing otherwise, Naruto said with determination. I know. Also, there's one more thing. Sasori trailed off. So Kabuto is Sasori's spy in Orochimaru's circle, who would have thought? Naruto thought with intrigue and a little excitement, unable to help but chuckle at the image of Kabuto's possible reaction when he finds out that the talentless idiot that Kabuto so easily dismissed as nothing but a failure 3 years ago has not only defeated his master, but is now his boss. Hey, I never thought I'd be looking forward to seeing him again. Life is so amazing, so full of miracles, Naruto thought with amusement. So you'll simply present this prototype as Sasori's real body to Suna and give the real body to Yakumo-san to use for her puppet techniques? Haku asked curiously. You heard what Sasori said, right? He doesn't want Suna to profit from his achievements. Frankly, I also don't want to face the possibility of fighting against Sasori's real body again, so yes, that's what I'm going to do, Naruto replied casually. I suppose you're right, but what about the information that Sasori revealed about Kabuto? Are you going to meet up with him at the Tenchi Bridge? Haku asked curiously. Yes, I will meet up with him, of course. I want to hear what he has to say. Also, this will give me the opportunity to kill Orochimaru and take what I can from his research. If there is one thing that I have learned, it is that knowledge is power. I have now got in my possession all of Sasori's knowledge. If I can get Orochimaru's as well, it will more than make up for what I lack in experience. But not only that, this jutsu knowledge and scientific research will help to ensure the future of the Uzumaki clan and, by association, the village hidden in the whirlpools. The blonde Uzumaki explained. I see, but how are you going to go there and come back without detection? Konoha has kept a tight leash on you, and it will be even tighter when they find out that you have become strong enough to take down a member of the Akatsuki on your own. Don't worry about that, the meeting is a whole 2 weeks away. I have more than enough time to think of a plan. In any case, the time for my departure is nearing. I will probably leave soon after I kill Orochimaru. You seem a little overconfident. Don't forget, Orochimaru is a Sannin and a former Akatsuki member. It won't be that easy, Haku said with a warning undertone. I know that, but Orochimaru's arms were sealed inside the Death God by the third Hokage. He has lost the ability to utilize most of his ninjutsu. Also, I have you as my trump card, don't I? You make good points, but you should hurry up and learn the demonic ice mirrors. I don't want to have to kill any more people than necessary. And not that I didn't enjoy meeting you again and getting to know you better, but I would like to return to Zabuza-sama's side as soon as possible. I hope you understand, you're my best friend, but Zabuza-sama is my most precious person, Haku said with a somber expression. I know, don't worry, I recently mastered water manipulation. I am now working on combining it with my wind affinity. I am closer now to breaking the yin/yang formulae to successfully combine the two elements. I should have it nailed down in about a week. There are countless shadow clones working on it as we speak. I promise to release you as soon as you teach me the demonic ice mirrors. You'll be able to return to Zabuza's side sooner than you think, Naruto replied with a pat on the back and a grateful smile. It's not that I don't enjoy spending time with you, nor is it that I don't want to protect you, but There's no need to explain, I understand. You're a great friend, Haku, and I'm grateful for everything that you have done for me, Naruto said, cutting the effeminate boy off mid-sentence. I thank you? Haku whispered so softly that Naruto almost thought that he imagined it, almost. For what? Naruto asked with a quirked eyebrow. For everything. For being my friend, for giving me a purpose even in death, and for taking away my pain and remorse, Haku said with a smile of his own. You're strange in a cool kind of way, though, Naruto said playfully. Hey, you're one to talk, Haku retorted with a light punch to the blonde Uzumaki's shoulder. Touche, Naruto replied, the two friends, one a monster and one a zombie, sharing a peaceful and carefree laughter together, something that would seem very strange for a third party's point of view if there was one to witness it. So. Yeah? Naruto asked. I should probably go now. Are you going to be alright? Haku asked. Yeah, I'll be fine, thank you. But before you go, there's something I need you to do for me, Naruto trailed off. And that would be? I need you to take these 2 books that Sasori left for me and make copies of them. 2 copies of each, and then bring both the originals and the copies to me in exactly 3 days. Naruto ordered authoritatively. No problem, but why the need to make copies? Haku asked. I want to keep the originals so that I can give them back to their rightful owner when I resurrect him. 1 pair of copies will be for Yakumo-chan, and the other will be for the Uzumaki clan archives and for me to look over whenever I please, Naruto explained as he handed the scroll within which the 2 books are sealed over to Haku. 2 copies of each, huh? That won't be a problem. I'll have it down in no time at Naruto-kun. What's wrong? Haku asked anxiously. There's a whole lot of people coming this way fast. It must be the reinforcements Chiyoba-sama was supposed to organize. Hurry up and go. It won't look good if I am seen with you, Naruto ordered hastily. Got it, Haku replied with equal haste as he instantly teleported himself away through an ice mirror, the mirror turning into a puddle of water as soon as his body disappeared into it. Every jutsu has a flaw. This jutsu's flaw is that it leaves evidence of its use behind in the form of a water puddle. If it wasn't for the fact that Sasori sprayed a whole lot of water on the battlefield during our fight, I would have found myself hard-pressed to explain a random puddle in the middle of the desert. I'll have to find a way to make the mirrors evaporate instead of melting, Naruto thought analytically. Naruto-kun! Lee, running ahead of everyone else, shouted as he closed in on the blonde Uzumaki. Lee? Naruto-kun! Are you alright? Where's Sasori? Lee asked in quick succession, kicking up a dust cloud as he came to a sudden stop in front of the blonde Uzumaki. I am alright, Lee, and I will explain everything when everyone else arrives, Naruto answered simply. Oh, okay, that actually makes sense. This way you can avoid repeating yourself. Yash! Good strategical thinking, Naruto-kun. I should write this down on my notebook, Lee exclaimed enthusiastically, quickly pulling out a small notebook and a pencil seemingly out of nowhere and scribbling quickly inside said book. I wonder if Chiyoba-sama had a chance to say anything incriminating about me before she died. Did she mention the Kazekage? I hope she didn't, because I'm definitely not going to hand such a powerful weapon to a potential enemy, Naruto thought. Naruto-kun is not the same Naruto-kun from 3 years ago. This Naruto-kun is not as youthful as the old one. He's almost like Niji now. Naruto-kun, what could have happened in that training trip to dampen your flames of youth to this extent? Lee thought with a concerned expression. Is something the matter, Lee? Naruto asked, staring inquisitively at the bull-haired teenager from the corner of his right eye. And no, it's nothing, Lee answered as he quickly looked away from the blonde Jinchuriki, seemingly finding the dirt on the ground to be very interesting all of a sudden. Those eyes, since when did Naruto-kun have such a malicious gaze? Something strange is definitely going on with him. Maybe I should talk to Gai-sensei about this. He might know something about what's happening to Naruto-kun, Lee thought. If even Lee is starting to catch on, then my time in Konoha is a lot shorter than I thought. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. People may be ignorant when it comes to matters concerning me, but they certainly aren't retarded. This was bound to happen eventually, Naruto thought with an audible sigh. Everything okay, Naruto-kun? Lee asked curiously. The others have arrived. I will explain everything soon, Naruto said. Lee turned around to face the direction that he came from and, indeed, close to 100 Suna shinobi, along with Team Gai, Sakura, Kakashi, Temari, Kankuro, and the resurrected Kazekage Gaara himself were arriving on the scene, with the revived Gaara leading the entourage, the former Ichibi Jinchuriki stopping right in front of the blonde Jinchuriki, the two separate by only a soul meter. Where is Sasori? Gaara asked with his usual emotion-deficient tone. In here. Naruto replied simply, handing over a storage scroll to the Godame Kazekage with the kanji 4 puppet inscribed on it. Puppet? Gaara asked with a confused frown. The Godame Kazekage wouldn't go anywhere near as far as declaring himself to be a seal master, but he was sure that he had more than enough knowledge on the sealing arts to know that this was without a doubt not the kind of sealing jutsu one would use to store a human body. In fact, it was quite easy for him to tell that this was a normal storage scroll used to seal inanimate objects. For Naruto to claim that Sasori was inside that scroll was, if you asked him, completely absurd. Sasori turned himself into a humanoid puppet. In other words, he replaced almost his entire human body with puppet body parts. To my understanding, this was done in order to take away most, if not all human limitations, the very essence of mortality included. Naruto explained. So it's true what Temari and Tsunade said, he's very different, more serious and much more politically and professionally mature, but what about his emotional maturity? Gaara pondered briefly. Explain something to me. If, as you seem to have implied, Sasori was trying to attain immunity and immortality through this procedure, how did you kill him then? Gaara asked skeptically. He couldn't completely turn himself into a puppet, of course. After all, puppets cannot generate their own life force and chakra. There was a small piece of living flesh near the area where one's heart would be. I was able to kill him by stabbing through that small part of his body. Naruto explained with an indifferent tone. So then, if I were to unseal this scroll, would I be able to see this so-called living flesh? Gaara asked. No. Naruto replied simply. Explain yourself? Gaara ordered almost immediately. I destroyed that part completely. You have to understand, Sasori gave me an extremely hard time. I couldn't take any chances, I had to make sure. However, if you do unseal the puppet, you will find the hole where the flesh was and some of his blood splattered around the area. You can conduct a DNA test from that blood sample if you want confirmation. Naruto responded. I see. Gaara said with equal indifference. The bounty on Sasori's head, according to the bingo book, is 125 million. I would like it to be transferred to this account. Naruto said as he handed a small piece of paper to the Kazekage, much to everyone's, by everyone meaning everyone who knew him well, shock. Naruto. Is that all you can think about after everything that happened? Everyone left everything and ran as fast as they could to get here so that we can help you. Everyone was about to risk their lives just for you and all you can think about is money? What the hell is wrong with you? Sakura shouted with more than a little fury. I'm merely following standard regulation and procedure. To answer your question directly, no, I'm not only thinking about money, there are other things occupying my mind as well, the ones you mentioned included. The blonde Uzumaki said without a shred of emotion. How can I take anything you say seriously when you sound so cold? Right now, you're acting just like Sasuke. It was almost like a bomb had just been dropped right in the middle of everyone, such was the silence that took over the Konoha and Suna shinobi. Even the people who did not know of this Sasuke were completely silenced, instinctually able to discern the taboo territory that the conversation had taken and not willing to be caught in the middle of it. You're so misguided, Sakura-san. Sasuke is self-centered and self-serving, he doesn't care about anyone else but himself and his own ambitions. Even though their goals are of similar origins in nature, the path they have taken is vastly different. Naruto, unlike Sasuke, is able to sympathize with those of similar backgrounds and is willing to even delay his own plans to help them. Also, his dream is not just about avenging his clan and building a new one, his plan is to ultimately create a place where even the outcasts and rejects of the world can find a place to call home, a place where they are also accepted and loved. Neji thought. You are entitled to your opinions, Sakura, but I am no longer going to scream and beg for yours or anyone's acceptance. I know who and what I am and I am secure about who I am. I don't need your approval, Naruto said with finality. Sakura, for the second time now since Naruto returned, was shocked into absolute silence and left with a gaping mouth, a confused mind, and a broken heart. She wanted to get angry and lash out at the blonde Uzumaki, she wanted to beat the old Naruto back into him, because honestly, she didn't like this Naruto at all. She was not used to Naruto standing up to her like that, and she was definitely not used to getting the cold shoulder from him. It hurt when Sasuke did it, but it only strengthened her resolve to break through that barrier and win his heart over. With Naruto though, it honestly scared the shinobi out of her, especially after what happened the last time she had clashed with him. It also didn't help that he was just so unpredictable, honestly, for all she knew, Naruto might as well have been a complete stranger to her now. She'd always thought that she knew him well, that she could always rely on him no matter what, but right now, she really didn't know if he even cared about her. Did he even consider her as a teammate anymore? Did he even consider her as a friend? She'd always imagined that her life would be much better if Naruto would just stop pestering her and leave her alone, that she would be much happier if he stopped asking her out on dates and hopelessly pursuing her affections. She just never thought that she would feel so hollow when it happened, nor did she imagine it would hurt this much actually. Come to think of it, she never thought it would ever happen at all. Sure, Tsunade Shishio had told her all about how Naruto said that he was over her and loved someone else, but she hadn't believed it at the time. She just thought that maybe Naruto was just venting out his frustrations at her for not returning his feelings, or maybe just trying to play some sick reverse psychology maneuver to get her to like him. She even considered that he might be trying to act like Sasuke to get her to like him, but now, she didn't think it could be any more obvious that he doesn't have any feelings for her at all. Naruto, seeing that Sasakura had nothing to say in response, decided to quickly divert the attention to something more important in the grand scheme of things. In any case, Sakura, what happened to Kakashi? Why is he riding on Gai-sensei's back? Naruto asked curiously, although, given how depleted his chakra was, Naruto already had his suspicions about what could have happened. He overused his Sharingan again, like he did when he was fighting with you. We would all be dead now if it wasn't for him, Sakura explained, trying valiantly to hide her emotions and maintain a professional tone. She didn't want that jerk to realize just how much of an effect his behavior had on her lest he misinterpret it. So Deidara was able to force him to use Kamui. This is also the same guy that defeated and captured Gaara. He must be insanely strong then, Naruto thought. And what became of him? Is he dead? Naruto asked. Yes, he used the suicided technique when he realized that he was cornered with nowhere to go. He wouldn't have been able to outrun Gai-san and his team, and he still had I and Kakashi-sensei to deal with. Chiyoba-sama also arrived at the time, and he was already low on chakra and clay. He also lost an arm to Gaara and the other one to Kakashi-sensei's jutsu. Without both of his arms, he must have realized that victory or escape is impossible, and decided to blow himself up and take us all with him to the afterlife. Kakashi-sensei used the remainder of his chakra to save us and lost consciousness as a result, Sakura explained. Blew himself up? That sounds a little suspicious. I'll have to keep an open mind about this one until I can truly confirm his death, Naruto thought wearily. I see. What about Chiyoba-sama? Did she say anything before she departed? Naruto asked. What exactly do you mean by departed? Sakura asked suspiciously. I mean before she died, did she say anything important? Naruto asked. How do you know that she died? I don't remember anyone mentioning such a thing, Sakura demanded. She's got a point? How would you have known such a thing? She left you behind to call reinforcements, and you all of a sudden just assumed that she mysteriously died, Kankuro asked with equal suspicion. Gaara? I'm afraid I have to agree with them too. You need to explain yourself, Naruto, Gaara said coldly. Sakura's suspicion is understandable. I already suspected that Tsunade would have warned her and Kakashi about me and given them instructions to watch my movements carefully. But the Sand siblings? Even Gaara of all people? He didn't even greet me after seeing me for the first time in 3 years? Naruto thought with a little confusion. I can only think of a few possible explanations. Temari was also there when I fought Kakashi, and she also witnessed my first clash with Sakura when I threatened to kill her. She therefore already knew a lot by virtue of her presence alone. Either she warned her brothers of her own accord or was ordered by Tsunade to ask them to watch me, maybe even use my bond with Gaara to get information out of me. It's also possible that Sakura and Kakashi were ordered to pass on the request to Gaara and his siblings, or a messenger bird was maybe sent ahead already before we even left Konoha. Actually, that sounds more probable. A messenger bird was sent before Gaara got captured, probably a few days after my battle with Kakashi. Damn that Tsunade. I can't believe that she thought this far ahead. She's smarter than she lets on, isn't she? I'll have to exercise even more caution with her. Actually, I should really stop underestimating her, Naruto thought anxiously. We're waiting, Naruto, Gaara said indifferently, the cork on his gourd popping off with his sand flying out and around his head menacingly. Everyone else, the Konoha contingent included, taking this as a sign to get into their own battle stances. No offense, Kazekage-sama, but don't you think that you're all acting a little silly right now? I mean, Chiyoba-sama would not have left Naruto to deal with Sasori on his own for any duration of time without just cause, and neither would she have left without even so much as an explanation. No matter what kind of person she was, I doubt she would have left a teenager to deal with Sasori and not even had the decency to let him know why she was leaving, Niji said in a calm and logical manner, keeping his eyes closed and looking away in order to hide any trace of emotion that might show in his eyes or facial expression. What Niji speaks of is the truth. Chiyo explained that the technique she was planning to use to resurrect you would require that she first heal the injuries on your corpse, and then transfer her own life force to your body, Gaara. She also explained that the new life force in your body would act as a beacon that would draw your departed soul back to your body. When that happens, she would die and you would be revived. Naruto explained, taking a short pause to calm his nerves before continuing where he left off. What you probably didn't know about this jutsu is that it wasn't originally meant for you, Naruto said, much to the surprise of everyone that was present. What do you mean by that exactly? Temari demanded with narrowed eyes. Chiyobu-sama conceived that jutsu out of love for her only grandson. It was intended to be used on Sasori should the necessity ever arise. She changed her mind when she realized what had become of her beloved grandson. She entrusted me with the duty to stop her grandson from his path in the darkness, and left so that she can make up for her sins against your brother. I'm just glad I was able to help. At least this way, she and her beloved grandson will be reunited in the afterlife. In the afterlife, Sasori won't have to carry the burden of his duties and loyalties to the Akatsuki, and Chiyobu-sama won't have to carry the burden of her past mistakes. There won't be anything holding them back from being grandson and grandmother again. They will find peace and happiness in the afterlife. I think that is what Chiyobu-sama wanted, or would have wanted, Naruto said with a neutral expression. Sasori is a member of the Akatsuki, an organization hell-bent on capturing the likes of people like him. In fact, Sasori was probably trying his best to capture and eventually kill him. But Naruto still has the time to sympathize with him and even wish for his happiness. He may act differently, but he seems like the same Naruto at heart. Maybe the Hokage was over-exaggerating the situation a little too much, Kankuro thought. Are you telling me that Chiyobu-sama wanted to die? Gaara asked skeptically. I'm saying that Chiyo wanted, more than anything, to be able to hold her grandson in her arms once again, be it in this world or the next. I'm also saying that she wanted to entrust the fate of Suna in your hands, Gaara. But probably even more than that, she wanted your forgiveness for sealing the Ichibi into you and then abandoning you afterwards. She wanted to give you a chance to have the life that you could have enjoyed had you not been burdened with Shikaku's curse, Naruto said with a serious expression, making direct eye contact with the Yondaime Kazekage as the two teenagers found themselves getting locked in a staring contest. I think I understand now. You're definitely not the same Naruto that became my first friend in this world, but that Naruto still lives within you. That's good enough for me. It's nice to finally meet you after all these years, my friend, Gaara said with an extended right hand and a small, almost invisible smile. I was wondering when you were planning to give me a proper greeting, Naruto replied with a small smile of his own as he shook the young Kazekage's hand. I'm sorry for that, but I heard that you had become a different person since you left for your training trip. I had to confirm this on my own and make my own judgments, Gaara said simply. So then, this handshake is an oath of trust and loyalty, from one friend to another? Naruto asked. Yes, it is, Gaara replied. Very well, hopefully, the next time we shake hands like this, it won't be from one friend to another only, hopefully, it will be from one Kage to another, Naruto said with a fox-like smile. So he still has the same dream? I guess I really had nothing to worry about after all, Gaara thought, along with some of the Konoha contingent, not knowing just how wrong they all were. From one Kage to another it will be then, Gaara replied. I'm going to hold you to that promise. Remember that the next time you and I meet, Naruto warned with a serious tone. And I intend to honor my promise, or do you question my integrity, Uzumaki Naruto? Gaara asked with a small, playful smile. Hee. I wouldn't dream of it. You're one of the few people that I consider as my true friends. I have no problem placing my trust in you, Naruto said with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Good. Now listen carefully. Elder Ebisu, Chiyobu-sama's brother, has taken her body back to the village. As soon as he arrives, preparations for the funeral will be arranged so that the ceremony is conducted tomorrow morning. In other words, you and your comrades may only leave tomorrow after the funeral. It will be your last chance to say your farewells to Chiyobu-sama, Gaara said casually, even though it sounded more like an order more than anything else. I have no problem with that, Sakura Gai-sensei. What about you? Naruto asked. It would be most unyouthful for us not to pay our respects to a great hero like Chiyobu-sama. I will stay and leave tomorrow morning after the service, and so will my team, Gai responded with a subdued tone. We will leave tomorrow after the service, Sakura said coldly. There, you heard it, Naruto said. It is time for us to leave. Wait, Sakura cut in abruptly. What is it? Gaara demanded. Chiyo mentioned something important before she passed away. Carry on, Gaara ordered stoically. She said that Sasori was using a human puppet of the Sandaime Kazekage, A puppet that enables Sasori to use all of the Sandaime Kazekage's powers. Is this true, Naruto? Gaara snapped with renewed intensity and suspicion. Damn it! I guess it was too much to hope that Chio wouldn't say anything. Yes, it is true, Naruto replied with a stern expression. Why didn't you say anything about this? Gaara asked suspiciously. There we go again, Naruto thought with a mental roll of the eyes. Yes, Naruto, why didn't you say anything about this? I'm curious, we're all curious, Sakura asked with suspicion equivalent to the Kazekage's, if not more so. I didn't want to drop a bomb on everyone right now, considering everything that has happened. I also felt that this was the kind of information that you would want to release on a need-to-know basis. That's why I was planning to only tell you about it in the privacy of your office back in Suna. Naruto explained calmly and logically. He's right, this is not something that should have been spoken about so carelessly. The disappearance of the Sandaime was a big blow to Suna and was also something that we haven't quite recovered from yet. This is information that should be handled carefully, Temari said in agreement, much to the embarrassment of one Haruna Sakura, who found herself having to fight very hard to hide her blushes of embarrassment. Listen up, everyone! Gaara shouted, well, not really shouted, everyone knows that the Kazekage doesn't breach the barriers of shouting at any point no matter the circumstances, but still, it was louder than everyone was used to and could therefore be considered shouting, which is why all the whispers were so quick to die down. Everything you have heard and will hear today about Sandaime-sama is an S-rank secret that will not be discussed with anyone who does not already know of it under the penalty of death. Remember, failure to comply will result in the termination of your existence, understood? Hi, Kazekage-sama. Every Suna shinobi saluted. Good. Now Naruto, where is the Kazekage now? Gaara asked anxiously. You'll have to forgive me again, but like I said earlier, Sasori gave me a very hard time, I couldn't afford to take any chances, Naruto said with a sad face as he looked away from the Kazekage to avoid direct eye contact. You destroyed the body? Gaara asked with a heavy sigh. I did what I felt was necessary at the time, Naruto replied. I see. Well, don't trouble yourself so much, this doesn't change anything. I probably would have done the same if I was in your shoes, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Now come, let us go home, Gaara said with a pat on the blonde Uzumaki's back. Okay, let's got, Naruto said with a small smile. Well, that was easier than I thought. 2 weeks later. Have you come to free me from this imprisonment yet, Naruto-kun? Kurama Yakumo asked as she wiped the last of her dishes clean, not bothering to turn around to face the intruder in her home, or rather, feeling so comfortable with the intruder's presence that she didn't feel the need to. She is an exotic beauty with long brown hair that has 2 bangs framing her face, smooth, pale skin and dark expressive brown eyes. Wearing a simple white kimono with a red sash and normal, brown sandals. Is it safe to talk? Naruto asked. Those idiots assigned to guard me are under the influence of my genjutsu at all times, you already know that, Yakumo said with her usual Ice Queen-like stoicness. Vigilance is the key to success, especially for people like us. It doesn't hurt to exercise caution, Naruto replied as he took a seat on the other end of the kitchen table. True. That's part of the reason why you make such a good leader, Naruto-kun, Yakumo said as she turned around to face the blonde, seating herself on the other side of the kitchen table and folding her hands together, also adopting her business mode. I appreciate the compliment, especially when it is coming from someone like you. What is that supposed to mean exactly? Yakumo asked with a frown on her face. You give away very few of those, so I have to treasure each and every one that I get. You're not someone that is very easily impressed, although, I guess it's a good thing that you have high standards, Naruto replied carefully. Cheesy, but good enough for now. Anyway, not that I don't enjoy your company, but why are you here? Yakumo asked curiously. This is the first time that you have asked me that question since the first time I came to visit you, why ask me now? Naruto retorted. Because you've followed a strict visiting schedule ever since then, this is the first time that you have broken that schedule, Yakumo countered smoothly. I see, well in that case, I'll go straight to the point. The boss is leaving on a mission today to meet up with Sasori's spy, Yakushi Kabuto. As you already know, Kabuto has become Orochimaru's right-hand man, the boss will go to meet up with Kabuto at the Tenchi Bridge. However, Kakashi has suffered from severe injuries in the clash with Akatsuki's Deidara. His chakra coils are dangerously strained and bruised, it will take another week or 2 for him to completely recover, Naruto explained, pausing slightly to catch his breath before continuing where he left off. Go on, Yakumo said calmly. A new captain has been assigned for Team Kakashi, a man who goes only by the name Yamato. However, considering that he is a currently registered member of the ANBU, that name is most likely just a code name for the mission. Also, Danzo has made his move already. Danzo. What has he done? Yakumo asked with a worried expression. She knew that man very well. That was the same man that had tried to turn her into his personal weapon a few years ago. If it wasn't for the third Hokage, she might very well have become that weapon. Of course, Yakumo knew that the third didn't do that out of love or care for her. She wasn't anywhere near that naive. He just didn't want Danzo to have more power than he already did, lest he overthrow him and take the Hokage title. As far as Yakumo was concerned, Danzo and the third were two sides of the same coin. She was worried though. If Danzo was taking a sudden interest in her Naruto-kun, then she would have to end her passive aggression and take an active role in Akatsuki's proceedings sooner than she thought. As you already know, Team 7 has been incomplete since Sasuke defected. A new member has been assigned to Team 7, a guy of round about the same age group as us, who also happens to be a member of Danzo's ROT organization. It is possible that Tsunade and Danzo have called a truce and are now collaborating to deal with the boss. Naruto explained. You seem a little too calm about this. This is getting bigger and bigger, Naruto-kun. We need to do something. We need to leave soon. Yakumo said with a worried expression. I know, that's part of the reason that the boss broke schedule and sent me here to give you an update. You've had almost 2 weeks with Sasori's journal and Puppet Art's guidebook. It took Sasori years to get to that level, but that is only because he had to rely on years of research and experimentation to get to where he is. Basically, there was a lot of trial and error before he achieved that level. You, on the other hand, have the already completed and ready-to-use guide in your hands, and the boss has taught you the shadow clone technique and the jutsu's secret. Progress should, theoretically, be exponentially faster. It also helps that you're one of the greatest geniuses since the discovery of ninjutsu. Naruto said with a questioning gaze. He is so demanding the absolute best from your subordinates, yet always quick to give due praise and encouragement. A great leader indeed. Yakumo said with a playful but sincere smile. Cheesy, but I suppose that's good enough for now. Naruto said with the same words and tone that Yakumo had used on him earlier, causing the exotic beauty to giggle at the blonde Uzumaki's attempt to mimic her.